Hello and welcome to this collaborative effort between the Lost Art of Wrestling and the Wrestlebox podcast. Which sort of like settled on like Lost Art of Wrestlebox for this special lockdown reviews, I want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do, yeah. I am your host for this particular episode from the Wrestlebox podcast, and also featured on RAD Live and also the Phoenix Night reviews on Lost Art of Podcasting. I'm Lewis Ogden, and joined with me today is the man who we labelled as not Daz in the group chat. It's Mr. Anthony Dark.
Hello, yes, Mr. Anthony Dark, not Daz. It's my one and only quality in life.
One claim to fame at the moment. But,
well, at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
At the moment, yes.
How are we?
Well, yes, hanging in. Just very, very happy that these wrestling shows are being made available to us. To very happily pass, especially one such as this G1 Supercard, which I'm very, very excited to review and
talk about.
And it was a very, very, very good pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And it's free.
Yeah, well, it's free at the... we should probably make mention of why we're doing these podcasts, because us here over in Jolly UK, we're in a state of lockdown that has eased quite substantially, but I think a lot of sane, sensible people will still be following the guidelines that have been put in place, and it just means a hell of a lot of time to ourselves. And luckily, budding wrestling fans have had certain shows been made available to them. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to do podcast review, do the selection of shows, is just a case of, just wanting to get back into doing some wrestling podcasts. And, there's quite, in a way, it was a good thing of, New Japan to make 3 particular shows that we are going to be looking at available. And also Ring of Honor have made this particular show that we're going to be reviewing today available on their YouTube channel until, I think it's like middle of July. I think it's like 21st of July.
I think so, yeah. I think so, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But, this show and subsequent reviews that we're going to be doing in the coming weeks are available to view for free on the New Japan World website. So the show that we're going to be looking at today is the co-produced Ring of Honor and New Japan G1 Supercard, which took place over WrestleMania weekend in 2019. So for those listening ahead in the future, but for us it'll be like last year. So before we get into the actual bones of the show, I was just wondering, Anthony, what are your previous engagements in both Ring of Honor and New Japan before you watched the show?
I've always paid attention to them, so I've always wanted to know what's going on, especially now in New Japan, because what drew me over to New Japan was Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt, as he was, Prince Devitt. That's what drew me over to New Japan. So I thought, hang on, start watching this. Got watching it, discovered Okada, Omega, and it was just the man who is currently my favourite wrestler in the whole entire world, along with Chris Jericho, is Tetsuya Naito. Loved him, and it's a love. It's a love of it's a very respectful wrestling community over there. They're always relatively quiet while the match is going on. When something good does happen, they do clap. It's sort of a lovely, respectful thing over there. With Ring of Honor, I've sort of tailed off Ring of Honor recently, and I've sort of been brought back to it by Joe Hendry has recently signed, and Joe Henry's a favourite in this house, a very good favourite of my wife's. He's gone viral recently with his McDonald's song about the lockdown, and a few more. I think 5 million views he chalked up. So if and marty-scurll's there now, who I believe is on creative.
He's the booker.
He's the booker now, so we'll see what happens with that. But always paid attention, always kept up to date with him. I won't say watched religiously, but I've certainly watched the major pay-per-views and stuff like Wrestle Kingdoms. I mean, I think Wrestle Kingdom has outdone WrestleMania for at least 4 or 5 years on the trot now. I've enjoyed Wrestle Kingdom more than WrestleMania. And I think it's a shame that it doesn't get the praise and exposure that I think it should do, especially amongst wrestling fans.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on particularly New Japan, because you could say that I'm a New Japan fanboy, because I still maintain that New Japan has the best pro wrestling on the planet anywhere. But that's just my opinion. Ring of Honor is, I'd sort of like dip my toe in the water. I used to watch like an odd pay-per-view here or there. I seem to remember there was a pay-per-view in, I think it was like 2014. I remember the main event, because it was the main event of Michael Elgin and Adam Cole, and it was like this blood like feud of this is back when Michael Elgin had like long hair. Yeah, I know.
He's in Impact Wrestling now, and he's bald. The two are completely unrelated.
Yes. But I just remembered sort of like the main build around the match was, one, Adam Cole cut off Elgin's, well, if you want to call it mullet, it was more like a attempt at doing a Baron Corbin impression.
He did the same. He did the same with Jay Lethal, didn't he, Adam Cole?
Yes,
if I remember rightly.
He did, yeah.
Sort of an obsession, that man, really.
Yeah, he was doing his best effort to try and become the next Brutus Beefcake.
Well, I recently, sorry to interrupt, but I was watching Ring of Honor put down like a top 10 greatest moments of this and controversial moments of that. And it's marty-scurll doing the commentary over it. And one of the moments is Adam Cole cutting off Jay Lethal's hair.
Right.
And so marty-scurll says, who does this guy think he is? The next Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Which I thought,
I mean, given his track record.
Well,
that's two.
Yeah. that is two. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So there was that was a contributing factor, and then I think it was like maybe the Go Home episode of like Ring of Honor or whatever. Adam Cole actually attacked Michael Elgin's missus while Elgin was sort of like tied up in the ropes or whatever. And I always remember sort of like the start of this match, like Ring of Honor have this thing of like, particularly main events, of doing this sort of like code of honor shtick, where they just basically sort of like handshake in the middle before the match officially begins.
Yeah.
And so, main event's about to go on, and Michael Elgin, who is standing across the ring from Adam Cole has cut this guy's hair and attacked his wife, still goes for the code of honor handshake.
It's very it's that thing that AEW are doing now. They're trying to present it. I'm going to make it. Oh, it's going to sound awful. They're going to present it as a real sport, like a martial, like the UFC, for example. That's how they're going to present it. That's what the gimmick they want to give off.
Yeah.
The show, that not like WWE where it's full on story. It's more focused on storylines, and this one's a heel and that one's a face, and you're supposed to like this person, you're supposed to boo that person, and all that. Mm-hmm. It's very. I don't know if I like it or not.
There's a time and place. There's a time and place for it. There's a time and place for it, I think. But that was my main gripe when I was sort of like, I remember watching this pay-per-view, sort of like, Elgin, this guy's made your life a living hell, and you're still going for a handshake. Come on. I mean, like, it's in real life. If that sort of thing had happened to you, would you really want to, before you go in for like this big grudge fight, would you really want to shake the guy's hand?
Yeah. Well, not yeah, you shake his hand, but I completely understand what you mean.
Yeah.
If it depends what character Michael Elgin was playing. If he was going for that character of, despite what you've done, I'm still going to do the code of honor and still shake your hand and still do all this shtick. It comes from a very strange place. I don't know if he was told to do it or not, or if it was written in the script, but it's a very weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's weird.
Mm-hmm. And then sort of like my other experience with Ring of Honor is the couple of times that they came into the northwest of England, at a particular promotion which will remain nameless for sort of like cross promotion shows.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about that. But we're not allowed to talk about it.
It's not a case of not being allowed to. I just don't want to talk about that particular company. But it was literally a case of they had loads of Ring of Honor wrestlers come over, like twice over the span of 2 years. So you got the chance of meeting, watching Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish,
Dalton Castle,
Roderick Strong, Jay Lethal,
Silas Young, and I believe Matt Sydal, formerly known as Evan Bourne. I believe Matt Sydal was there. I think.
I can't remember.
I think he was.
I know he definitely featured on sort of like future shows.
Yeah.
But I always remember coming out of those particular shows. I always remember Adam Cole and Dave Mastiff being an absolute barn burner of a match.
That was a brilliant match.
It was really fucking good.
I think it's the best match I've seen live, as in person. I think that's the one for me.
It was until sort of a couple of years ago, but I will get onto that when I get into New Japan, which ironically I'll get into now because that's pretty much my experience with Ring of Honor. In terms of New Japan, sort of dipped in and out in terms of certain matches. Like I'd seen Okada and Nakamura in sort of like a G1 final. I'd seen the matches that Nakamura had with Kota Ibushi and AJ Styles at the subsequent WrestleManias, which I really fucking enjoyed and really, really good. But my first real time of sitting down and sort of like watching a full New Japan pay-per-view was really Chris Jericho, because it was around about this. I have this regular routine where I'll just sort of like surf Twitter or whatever, on a couple of hours a day, and this wrestling Twitter just completely blew up of just going, oh my God, Chris Jericho has just appeared on, the screen at a New Japan event and has challenged Kenny Omega for Wrestle Kingdom. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? So like I searched it out and I was sort of like, okay, I'm down to town. I've heard Kenny Omega's a really good worker, and it got me involved. It got me interested in watching Wrestle Kingdom 12. I watched Wrestle Kingdom 12 and I immediately was like, yeah, this is the company for me. This is the wrestling promotion for me, I should say.
Yeah.
And I've just been pretty much sort of, I wouldn't say like a full-time fan, but I've like literally kept abreast of everything that goes on in New Japan since. And it's funny you were talking about the Dave Mastiff Adam Cole matches being one of your favourite matches to watch live, because it was nearly 2 years ago, just be under 2 years ago, that myself, Alan, and our mate Matt, we all went to a Rev Pro / New Japan event that took place in Altrincham, and it had a double main event of Okada, Zack Sabre Jr. and then Tomohiro Ishii and Minoru Suzuki in the main event. And honestly, those two matches are some of the best that I've ever seen live. I mean, they were just outstanding. They were outstanding wrestling matches. And I'd literally like made the case of just going, if New Japan ever come over here for another sort of show, I hope that they would sort of like go a little bit more northern, just so it would make it a bit more accessible. But the next time that they're over in the UK, I want to go to a New Japan show, because it's just, that level of, it's just that level of wrestling that's just sort of like sets the bar so high that none of the other companies really can touch it. I mean, they'll sometimes be good in their own right, but they're nowhere near at the same level. Nowhere near at the same level.
I get the impression they won't let anyone wrestle on their card with their logo and their name on it unless they are at the top level, or at a very, very high level. If you love pro wrestling, you should be watching New Japan, because I honestly believe that is the place to go for pro wrestling at the minute. For professional wrestling in its purest, naturalist form, New Japan. For example, Zack Sabre Jr. is one of the best technical wrestlers on the face of the earth. He's on a match. He faces, not spoilers, he faces Tanahashi. And obviously we've been making notes throughout this pay-per-view, and it's probably the first match where I couldn't make notes because I was just sat there watching it. And you can talk about how people like the Young Bucks to do all this flippy stuff and dives out the ring. And I don't think I saw one single dive. I can't remember one. I just watched amazing technical wrestling by two amazing technical wrestlers.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was locked watching it. And I have made a few notes on it, mainly being fucking amazing. I was watching it, but I wasn't. I was sort of like, it was a great match, and it's how wrestling should be done.
Yeah, so we'll get on to it. So it's the G1 Supercard, co-produced by both Ring of Honor and New Japan. April 6th, 2019, from Madison Square Garden. The attendance, as soon as we get to sort of like the main show, is a full sellout of 16,534. It was apparent just over $1 million at the gate, which I did sort of like the maths for it, and it would equal an average ticket price of just over $60.50, which sounds about right for sort of like considering it's Madison Square Garden and it's right in the centre of New York.
It's like, say if your favourite artist or your favourite band is going, you're going to throw money at it to go there.
Yeah.
This is, if you love pro wrestling, you're going to throw money at this.
And plus you've got to remember as well that this is taking place over the sort of like the WrestleMania weekend. So, you know, if there's not only people that are going to be there to see sort of like your WrestleManias, your NXTs, your Hall of Fames, anything WWE related, you've also got this. You've also got stuff with sort of like WrestleCon, the different conventions, all that. I mean, like from what people say of like whichever city WrestleMania is set in, that city just basically becomes a wrestling town for the entire weekend. So you're gonna get a full mix of like everybody coming in.
Yeah, it's mental. It's absolutely mental. It's like Mardi Gras, just waltzing through. Yeah.
Did you know that obviously this event, it was officially announced in June of 2018. Do you know that there was interference from WWE of them trying to?
I heard a rumbling of this, and I wasn't sure if it was just WWE. I've got a bit of gripe between WWE fans and actual pro wrestling fans, but okay. I didn't know if it was WWE trying to drum up negative press, or WWE fans just spreading a rumor for the sake of getting themselves talked about, etc. I wasn't really sure, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. Thank God it went ahead, but yeah, go ahead, talk to us about it.
Yeah, well, they were literally it was just a case of like 1 month after the show had been announced, like WWE contacted officials at MSG, and they'd sort of like demanded that the event be blocked. And the Ring of Honor COO Joe Koff confirmed the reports of WWE's interference at the time, but it wasn't long after that the issue was resolved. And it was literally just a case of, I'm just trying to get a quote here from the Ring of Honor COO here.
It's a pretty big thing for WWE to go out of their way to try and stop a show.
Well, the thing is, like, I can understand them. I can understand them doing that because, you know, we've had years of experience of Vince McMahon, the shrewd businessman that he is, just sort of like trying to put a quash on any kind of competition. But you've also got to remember as well that they're trying to do an event in Madison Square Garden, and you've got to think how important that building was to Vince McMahon Senior, Vincent K. McMahon's father.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just sort of like during the territory days, that was the main go-to place.
Their house. It's their house. They consider it their house.
And that was, well, I think it was a combination of things really, but I think like as soon as they heard sort of like the press being built up of, the big dog's trying to squash this sort of like little dog, there's sort of like a case of, we'll back off, we'll let them do it because, we're WWE, goddammit, pal.
And I think that's the thing with WWE. They consider themselves the be all and end all of wrestling. If you're not in WWE, you've not made it. I'm sorry, but it's not the case anymore. Yeah. It is just not the case in 2020. It's just not the case.
Well, the thing is, when you had the likes of AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura come over, as soon as they get onto that main roster, they literally treat them as rookies, and literally just a case of, we know that they've done stuff overseas, but this is the WWE. It's a completely different ballpark.
Michael Cole says that all the time. If there's any time someone new comes in, that's sort of the first thing he says. Like you said, AJ Styles. Oh, he's done all this, but he's not done it in WWE. Shinsuke Nakamura, who's an amazing wrestler, an amazing charismatic performer, and he doesn't get talked about anymore. He's sort of lost in the WWE universe.
Well, I don't really want to talk about WWE too much, but the thing is, you've got to realise sort of like the career that Nakamura had in Japan was incredibly hard hitting, incredibly taxing on the body. And, you literally hear people just sort of like going, well, Nakamura's just looking at this as sort of like a paid vacation, and he only really sort of tries every now and then, which, I can see both sides of the plate, really.
Yeah.
Because, I was expecting a lot when Nakamura came in, and, we didn't really get it. But hey ho, that's just the way things go. So before we get into the actual show, there was there was one dark match and there was one pre-show match.
Yes.
So there was a dark match, which was a 6-woman tag that featured women from Stardom and the Women of Honor, which is just basically the women's division of Ring of Honor. Now, this wasn't filmed for the pre-show, but it was recorded and made available on sort of like on a club, which is basically their streaming service, and then it was also made available on YouTube as well. I did watch it, did make notes for it. So it was Jenny Rose versus the Stardom faction, members of the Stardom faction, Ode Tai, Kazuka
and Hazuki. If I remember rightly, yeah. There we go.
And then they faced the team of Hanakamura, Sumi Sasaki, and Stella Gray. Yeah. It was a short enough match. It only went less than 7 minutes, and
it happened. That's the best thing I can say. It happened.
It was your bog standard pre-show match, really. Yeah. It was there. And it ended with Sumi Sakai getting pinned with a 450 splash from Keksuke, or whatever her name was. I can't remember.
Hang on, Kagetsu.
That's it.
I've not been practicing all day.
And then we had the official pre-show match, which was the Honor Rumble, and the winner got a future Ring of Honor World title shot. First big red flag of this being a Ring of Honor broadcast. There was three wrestlers, three New Japan wrestlers that had dubbed over themes. There was Minoru Suzuki, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Jushin Thunder Liger. Now, I'm sorry, dubbing over particularly Suzuki and Liger's themes is punishable by death, if I'm being honest, because both of those themes are fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible little theme. They're incredible themes. But hey ho. I didn't really make a note of anything that really happened in this match because
it was just who came in, who eliminated who and stuff like that. Interesting thing here, Kenny King chose to go first as a way of proving himself in Ring of Honor. And I think it was it was actually a really, really good build-up, actually, because Kenny King, he's making his entrance. The Ring of Honor, the commentators are bigging him up, saying, he chose to go first. He wants to prove himself in Ring of Honor. He wants this. And then next person that comes out, number 2, is Minoru Suzuki. You just think, all right, yeah, out you go, pal. That's the first thing you think.
The thing is, though, Kenny King comes out number 1, and yeah, they're putting it over in commentary. But you notice something? I actually made a note of how many people got, at the very least, a reaction when they came out, and only 2. Well, I can only put down 2 Ring of Honor competitors that at least got some sort of a reaction, and that was Cheeseburger and Colt Cabana later on. Nobody else on this Honor Rumble was over at all. Most of them came out to crickets.
And even PJ Black, who
before Justin Gabriel,
yeah, even he came out to absolute practical silence.
Yeah.
And I was a bit shocked, but I was a bit taken aback by that, because it's PJ Black. He's very well known, relatively well known. Well, I thought he was, and then he comes out to absolute no.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's PJ Black.
Mm.
It's not to kick him while he's down or anything, but his WWE career didn't really do that much of anything. And then the only thing that I can remember of him doing after he left WWE is I think he appeared on Lucha Underground.
He did, yeah. He was with Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, Johnny Impact, Johnny Nitro, whatever he goes by these days.
Johnny insert surname here.
Yeah, that's the one.
Let's see. I thought it was a nice touch that all the Ring of Honor competitors were introduced by the Ring of Honor announcer, and all the New Japan competitors were introduced by the New Japan announcer. I thought that was quite a nice touch.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, it's classy. It was just classy. That pro wrestling class. It's official. It's happening. Pay attention. So it makes. I think it makes you pay attention more when stuff like that when it's people take care of it.
Yeah.
I think it was cared about and it was nurtured, and I think that's why they did it.
Well, I can guarantee that it was a New Japan touch, because as we will see throughout the entirety of the night, it's the Ring of Honor involvement, at least for my part, wasn't that great, but we'll get into it. So it was originally supposed to be a 30-man Rumble, but number 27 was Toru Yano, who subsequently went straight over to the announcer's desk where Colt Cabana was and just went, "Hey, you go instead." And
I was so confused. I was like, "What is happening?" I was typing this up, and I thought, "Hey, can he do that? Can he just go in?"
Well, they literally said on there. They literally said on commentary as soon as because Cabana and Yano, they're both technically sort of looked at as entering 27. And so, literally, as soon as Yano goes to the ring and sort of they say in commentary, it's the New Japan Ring of Honor officials just said, "Yeah, just roll with it." So,
Yeah, I did like it though. I like Yano, I like Cabana, I like both.
Toru Yano is such a fucking great comedy wrestler. It's the age-old thing of sort of Jim Cornette saying, "Oh, you can't have humour in wrestling." Bollocks.
Well, anyway, that's a comment by a man who's completely out of touch at the minute. In some areas.
In some areas, definitely, I'd say. So there were 15 New Japan competitors and 15 Ring of Honor competitors. I would just list them down because I just basically made a list of every single entrant and then just put a star next to it.
Got the list as well, reaction.
Yeah. So Ring of Honor competitors were Kenny King, Cheeseburger, Beer City Bruiser. That's the one. Shaheem Ali, Rhett Titus, LSG, Will Ferrara, Brian Milanos, Jonathan Gresham, Tracy Williams, PJ Black, TK O'Ryan, Vinny Marciella, Delirious, and Colt Cabana. And then the New Japan representatives were Minoru Suzuki, Shoin Yo over Roppongi 3K, Shingo Takagi, Bushi, Raisuke Taguchi, Chase Owens, Rocky Romero, Bad Luck Fale, Yoshihashi, Jushin Thunder Liger, Tomohiro Ishii, Toriano, Hiroki Goto, and King Haku, which makes up 30. Well, which makes up 30, but technically the 30th entrant was the Great Muta.
The Great Muta. He's not just called, he is the Great Muta. I mean, this man is a god. He's an absolute god in not just in Japan, but in the wrestling world. He is held in such high regard. He is a god. He should, and he's rightly so, treated that way. And I was so happy when he came down that ramp to an absolutely massive pop.
Oh, it was one of the biggest pops of the night.
It's something that it was comparable to the Undertaker's gong. It was that sort of reaction that me just watching it a year later still gave me chills, because it is the Great Muta, and he's a living legend, a living god in the wrestling world. And he got the ovation.
And he came out in his alien cosplay attire, which looked fucking cool.
He just looked cool. He's God. That's all. I'm just gonna say God.
Yeah.
Just gonna say God.
The other thing that I had was the confrontation between Ishii and Suzuki, and as I said, I just got flashbacks to the match that I saw live. I was just sort of like, yeah, it's always great. It's always great to see Ishii and Suzuki, because like they had a I think it was like the back end of 2018. I think it was like one of the last pay-per-views before the build up to Wrestle Kingdom. They actually had like a main event match on like one of these major shows for the Rev Pro British title, and you know it's great. Whenever you have sort of like them two having a 4-round battle with each other, it's fucking, you know, it's printing money.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bit where at the start with Kenny King and Suzuki are in the ring. Kenny King's trying to chop, and Suzuki's just going, "What are you doing, pal?" He's just looking at him like, "What are you doing?" It's
the Suzuki death stare, because like literally just sort of like as soon as he gets like hit or whatever, he'll just literally look at him and just sort of like go, "Oh really, motherfucker?" It's like, "Here, I'll show you how to fucking do it," and then he'll just rifle somebody's fucking head off.
It's scary though, isn't it? that guy looks. I know you've probably had the nicest. Kenny King has probably had the nicest conversation with him backstage, but trust me, he shat himself in that ring. Regardless of what happened backstage, what they're going to do after, he shat himself when Suzuki looked at him like that.
Well, the thing is, from what I've heard from like, not like particularly people who have ever worked with him, but like backstage sort of like hoo-ha-ha, is that apparently like Suzuki and like Ishii, apparently working with them two is a piece of piss. Apparently it's not as stiff as it comes across.
I think that comes from they are so good at what they do.
Yes.
They make it make it feel easy on their opponent. I mean, it makes you want to go in the ring with them more. It makes you want to do it more as a wrestler should do anyway, regardless whether you're getting smacked out of the bloody ground or not.
And this at the same time as well, if you're just sort of like a fan looking in, it looks vicious, and it's something that you'd sort of like, you're more than willing to. It's why I've become like a really big fan of like Shingo Takagi, because he sort of like goes into that same pool as just sort of you know, the really stiff, hard hitting action that I've come to love so much. So it comes down, like initially it comes down to both Muta and Liger. Mm-hmm. Very smart decision, because it got the crowd hyped, and you know, they started having these confrontations, and then from out of nowhere, Kenny King comes out, just comes back in. Apparently he was sort of like, he disappeared. Like,
he literally does disappear, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I didn't clock him.
Because I think it was maybe like during the Yano stuff, because that was the only time that the camera was away from the ring for a significant amount of time. So it must have been then, because like 1 minute he was in the ring, and then the next minute he was nowhere to be seen.
Because there's so many bodies, there were so many. It took a while for the first elimination to happen as well.
Oh yeah, well,
because there were so many bodies in there. Not that's a criticism, but it was.
Beer City Bruiser gets eliminated first, and then I think he's like entrant number 4 or whatever. He pretty much gets eliminated straight away, and then there isn't another elimination until I think entrant number 15, and then there's a sort of like 5-minute stint, and then a couple of people get chucked out, and then another 5-minute stint, and then somebody else will probably get chucked out. But it was left late in terms of eliminations.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kenny King, who'd been hiding away on the outside, just comes in and eliminates both of them to the most, well, the first of many apathetic reactions.
Yeah.
It was so flat. And the thing is, as well, you've got Jushin Thunder Liger in there, who has come out before this event and just said, it was like start of that particular year.
The start of the year, wasn't it? He said that's it.
He just basically come out and said, yeah, this is going to be my last. It's going to be my last year in terms of being a professional wrestler. Wouldn't it have been better? Because I realise that this is a Ring of Honor match because it's a shot for the Ring of Honor title. Wouldn't it have been better just for Liger to have won, and then you can bring him back over in the summer, have him challenge for the world title? People will pay to see him wrestle in a world title match. You know?
Yeah, you're right,
it's his last, and will probably be sort of like his last big major bout in the US, and you can have him put over whoever is the world champion, and, that can skyrocket. But no, we'll just give it to Kenny King, who, it's no disrespect to Kenny King, but he's a predominant mid-carder.
He is not someone you want to hold the title and lead Ring of Honor now. Please do.
When we get to the Ring of Honor World Title match, we'll talk about who should not have the title.
I've got a massive gripe, but I've also got a massive gripe about someone else in this pay-per-view, and Anyway, when we get to him, you'll know. I just want to mention is it Taguchi? Leading several wrestlers. Was it Bushi in the corner? It was Bushi in the corner, and he leads what could only be described as a chain of wrestlers to repeatedly clothesline. There was at least 10 of them.
Yeah,
10 or 12.
It was literally just sort of like 10 or 12 wrestlers on a conveyor belt of doing consecutive clotheslines to Bushi in the corner.
And then he gets eliminated. I think Bushi gets eliminated by Rocky Romero.
Yes.
I just thought, how? It was entertaining. It was funny. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Pick on Bushi, man.
Well, hey ho, somebody has to take it, I guess. So the main show kicks off with a title for title match. The Ring of Honor TV champion Jeff Cobb against the Never Openweight champion Will Ospreay. Now, I'm going to be doing this for pretty much every single one of the main matches, bar probably the women's match, I'll say. But just sort of like thoughts on both of these guys.
I love Jeff Cobb. I think he's a pure athlete in terms of speed and strength. He's incredible, quite charismatic as well. Will Ospreay. Now, I have a bit of a gripe with Will Ospreay. He is probably one of the best wrestlers on the planet at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
And has been for quite a number of years. I mean, when we saw him in a Northwest promotion, he was up and coming, but we knew he was going to be good. Mm-hmm. And then he got to Ring of Honor, and then we knew, and then he went to Japan, and he's spent quite a few years at New Japan.
Well, you see, he's pretty much made Japan his home.
Yeah.
And pretty much as soon as he got in the doorway, it was literally just a case of Okada took him under his wing, and literally just has made it clear of him of just sort of like, you have the potential to be the next big star in pro wrestling.
Yeah. I'm just confused about. We've all seen the video of the Paul Heyman live shows done by, is it Inside the Ropes?
Yes.
And Paul Heyman handed him an Evolve contract, which would have led to a WWE contract, which would have led to X, Y, Z, and God knows what else.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned that down, and I was quite taken aback for a man who is quite popular among the wrestling community. He'll draw people in. I don't think he'll fail in WWE. I don't think he might reach the absolute heights. But I certainly don't think. I was just a bit confused as to why he turned that down. I mean, it turns out he had, like you say, Okada and New Japan on his back to say, come on, ignore that, pal. Yeah. Come over here. Instead of getting lost over there, come over here. But at that time, his mindset must have... It's Paul Heyman handing you the contract, for God's sake. If it was anybody else, even Vince McMahon himself, you'd suspect a bit of foul play. Mm-hmm. Not foul play, but a bit of, hang on a minute, you're just going to do me in here. But it was Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman, when he picks who he likes, usually doesn't let him down. Mm-hmm. Usually. And I just wondered, where's his mindset going forward? Because obviously now, there's two big companies in the US. Mm-hmm. It's up to him. He's a New Japan legend already, I think. I think he's up there, certainly. Especially in around Asia. But I wonder if some people will consider his career not so much a failure, but a letdown if he doesn't go to, say, the likes of WWE or AEW now. I just want your thoughts on that, because that's what I've heard. I think... what do you think?
I wouldn't really be in that mentality, because the thing is, you could say the same thing about the likes of Okada, who, bar the excursion, which, you know, all young lions in New Japan, who are just basically the young students, they basically go away for a year to, like, either Mexico or the US or the UK or wherever, and they just sort of, like, soak up as much knowledge as they come back. But bar, like, you know, a dip in the pond in TNA, Okada's mainly been Japan. Okada's mainly been New Japan, and, you know, I classify Okada as being one of the best wrestlers in the world at the moment. I very much doubt that he would be classed as a failure. I think that kind of talk is sort of like out the window when it comes to if you haven't gone to sort of like this company or this company, you haven't made it in wrestling. I honestly don't believe that. I mean, like, Will Ospreay, for me, from what I've seen the past year, in terms of him going up against, I actually made a note about this, like later on in the match that we're going to be talking about. I think his career going forward should be in the heavyweight division as the guy that just gets beat on and beat on and beat on, and then just makes spectacular comebacks. I think that is the road that he needs to be going down, because Ospreay, like, over the past few years, has just been stuck in the same sort of group of people who will do spectacular moves, but, you know, it's all this, you know, cruiserweight stuff, just sort of like flipping about and, you know, hardly any no selling. Whereas this particular match, I can think of a match he has with Shingo Takagi in the finals of the Best of Super Juniors final, and like G1 matches that he has with Okada, and then there's like an opening match against Lance Archer, that against like proper like big time heavyweights, but they're far more entertaining because he's got something to come back against. Whereas when he's like in the junior heavyweight division, it's just literally flips and tricks and, you know, all this stuff that just makes you turn your mind off and just sort of like, ooh, yeah, let's have a look at the...
And recent pictures that I've seen of him, he is the boys.
Oh, he's bulking up.
He is.
Like, he's doing what Zack Sabre Jr. is not doing, which is adding mass.
Yeah, well, I could not agree with you more. Zack Sabre Jr. is great. He's great at what he does. He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that.
No,
you have to be a big bloke to be a champ, but.
I mean, we'll get onto it later on, but it's when you're comparing Zack Sabre with Tanahashi, it's quite stark. And then Jeff Cobb has come sort of like to my attention sort of like the past couple of years. He's a really innovative powerhouse who's deceptively athletic. And
looks like Rhino, flies like Rey Mysterio. You know what I mean?
It's not sort of like a case of, over the top, big man athleticism like Keith Lee might do. Now, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Keith Lee. Yeah. But, there are times where it can be a hell of a little bit overboard. Whereas, sort of like Jeff Cobb, he has the ability to do sort of like he does in this match. He does standing moonsault, but he doesn't go overboard with it.
It's the simple things done well.
Yeah.
And that's what wins you over, especially in the pro wrestling world. You don't have to go ahead and do like a triple corkscrew, double flip onto the outside through a table, through a bar. You don't have to do that.
No.
Do the simple things well. The crowd, if you're charismatic enough to win the crowd over, they honestly sometimes don't care what you do in that ring. But if you do the simple things well.
And unfortunately, particularly in like most modern wrestling, that's the stage that it's got to, where it'll literally just be sort of like a case of doing all this stuff, but people are so desensitized to it that you'll do simple stuff that for me is more crisp and athletic, but you won't get any reaction from sort of like the fan base, which is a shame, I feel.
But I feel this got the crowd was really, I won't say really into it, but they were certainly into it because it's Will Ospreay. I just made a note, by the way, that during the opening sequence where all the fireworks going off, Will Ospreay's Titantron movie thing was on the center screens.
Yeah,
the whole thing, and sort of I thought, that's what's coming next.
Yeah. So the match kicks off. It's a very fast start. There's a bit where Ospreay's chucked towards the barricade and he sort of leaps over, and there's a wheelchaired fan that he almost runs into, and sort of like it's a case of like he looks back, sort of like gives a thumbs up to see if he's okay. Does like his little his little bits on the outside before chucking Cobb back in, and then he actually goes back over to the wheelchair fan and just makes sure that he's okay.
Not the last fan interaction in this pay-per-view, by the way. Not the last one.
No, but it's quite nice to see from Ospreay, because the thing is, like, I'm not really a big fan of Ospreay personally. I'd quite like him as a wrestler, but like I seem to remember there was a couple of years ago a case of a couple English female wrestlers who were going over to Japan to do some work in Stardom, and it's one of these girls just sort of like, oh my god, I can't wait to get out there, can't wait to sample the culture, can't really wait to get going, I can't wait to, it's going to be so exciting and I can't wait to have so much fun. And I seem to remember Ospreay at the time like doing this response of, you have to serious up when you get over here, because it's not a cakewalk, and you shouldn't treat it as a holiday, it's like serious work. And I was like, mate, come on, seriously, it's not a case of
let the baby out the bottle, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's literally just a case of, oh well, yeah, fuck off, will you? But from time to time, well, I haven't really followed him ever really since, because I don't really have that much of a liking for him, I should say. There's a stalling second rope superplex from Jeff Cobb, where second rope superplex from Cobb, and he literally just starts chucking Ospreay around, and that's literally where I have in my notes how and where Ospreay should be going in his career, because it's something that can, well, it's something that like gets him over as a babyface in Japan, really. I mean, he's very well liked in Japan, and I think like this style of match going forward, I think would get him over even more.
Do you not think he's getting too comfortable with that kind of way of? And he's sort of, because when I watched this match, it was very, I'm going to do what works in Japan, not what I know works in America or the UK or wherever. I get that sort of, I just get a vibe off him that's not a good one. I want to like him. I like the stuff he does as a pro wrestler. I think he's amazing. But there is something about him that is, it just sets off alarms.
Right.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about him. Not that it's not majorly negative. I don't want to hate, not hating on the guy, for God's sake. But it's like the story you told before. I think he's very, very, very engrossed in Japan, and that's fair enough to him. I think he loves it over there. He's gotten used to it. He knows what works over there.
Yeah.
I think he's going to stay over there.
Well, he's already living over there at the moment. He has got his I'm pretty sure it was like the back end of. It was either the back end of last year or the start of last year where he actually bought himself his own place and just basically said, yeah, I'm going to be living in Japan for full time from now on. He
mentioned something about staying in Australia as well.
Really?
Yeah, I remember he did a show in Australia, and he sort of said, I'm going to make Australia the place for wrestling, and yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then this all happens. So I'm pretty sure he said that before, but... You know, again, like I say, he's got a wider range of moves. I love the Stormbreaker finisher, by the way. I think that's a really good looking finisher. It looks great.
It's a finisher that Shayna Baszler started doing as well.
Really?
I think so, anyway. I don't know, because I haven't seen Shayna Baszler use it, but I've heard people say, yeah, she's taking that finisher under a wing. Under her wing, I should say. So yeah, I have in my notes, Cobb is not only powerful, but is so athletic. Proves it by kipping up off a Samoan drop and then nailing a standing moonsault, which was just finger beauty. So Cobb misses a top rope splash, which allows Ospreay to hit the Robinson special. Goes for the Os cutter, but there Cobb catches him in midair, chucks him towards the corner turnbuckle. Ospreay lands on the second rope and springs board back out of it and eventually hits the Os cutter for a really good two count fall.
Yeah.
And this
is a good segment, very good. Clean. I want to say clean.
Yeah, this was the match that like sort of got the fans really into it. I mean, they'd been into the match, but like this is the one that really popped them. So Ospreay goes for the Stormbreaker, but they maneuver in such a way that Cobb gets perched on the second rope. Ospreay nails a kick in the corner and then goes for top rope Stormbreaker, but Cobb fights his way out of it, hits a super Tour of the Islands, and then pulls Ospreay from the canvas up into a Tour of the Islands again and pins Ospreay to win the match and both titles in 12 minutes 52. This was a really good opener.
It really was. That finish was amazing. I really loved the Tour of the Islands from the top rope. I mean, it looked like it sucked for Will Ospreay. It looked like it really sucked for Will Ospreay.
Well, I mean, you're taking a flat back bump off the top rope. I mean,
yeah,
it's gonna suck anyway.
Of course, yeah. I've never been in the ring myself or fallen from a great height, but but it looked like the right finish. It worked, this match. It really did work. As both wrestlers really combining really well. And it was just a very nice finish. Obviously, after the top rope, Cobb gets up, pulls the off the shoulder of his onesie sort of thing, and just sort of like, come on, and the crowd just goes freaking mental at this point. It's another Tour of the Islands, and it really sets off the pay-per-view very well. Sets the tone Sets the tone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're in for a couple of dubs from in the next few matches.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah. I mentioned before we came on, it was just sort of like the case of, we used to big time celebrities being at ringside in WWE. I seem to remember one time when WWE came over in 2006. I seem to remember there being a time where Jose Mourinho and his kids were in the crowd.
Oh yeah.
And it was around the time of sort of like, DX versus the McMahons, and sort of Shane McMahon got on the microphone and just basically said to Jose Mourinho, if it weren't for Russian oil money being pumped into your club, you would be absolutely nothing.
It was really awkward.
Yeah.
I found it so awkward because Mourinho was looking at him like, what the hell, you okay? You were my friend about an hour ago. Calm down, pal. What's this about? He looked really. It was just really awkward. Really awkward. So was this. Don't invite celebrities to your pay-per-view and sit him in the front bleeding row because it's awkward. Wasn't it Fred Durst?
Yeah.
Who swore at the camera at SummerSlam?
Middle finger at SummerSlam was immediately kicked out.
I'm like, stop inviting celebrities to your fucking shows, guys. Oh my god. Anyway.
Yeah. So, WWE used to having, Fred Durst. Or maybe have like the likes of Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider in the front row at WrestleMania. And who do Ring of Honor get? World Arm Wrestling League champion Michael Todd. Woo!
I honestly thought, this is some kind of charity work. Oh, that's nice having him on. Like they're doing some sort of Make-A-Wish. I don't know. Honestly, I was so confused. Like, am I meant to know who he is? It was that kind of moment, wasn't it? Are we meant to know him?
Ring of Honor do this many, many times tonight. I expect you to know who these fucking people are.
Who was the woman sat next to him? Because they mentioned her and all.
Oh, do you know what? I didn't even bother making a note of it because I was just sort of like, I don't recognise the name, so I'm not going to bother making a note of.
I remember that now because he looked so confident at the start and he did like 5 seconds of pose and I thought, yeah, that's quite cool. And then he just sat down awkwardly for another 10 seconds while the camera just stayed on him and he was just staring into the camera. And I thought, should I look away or should I wait for him to look away? Are you going to cut the camera? No, okay, just keep it on him while he stares at you. That's fine. It was yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ring of Honor, for that fantastic segment.
So we'll get on to match number 2. Well, we can't really call it a match number 2 because of how long it lasts. But technically, match number 2, it's Roosh versus Dalton Castle. Now, Roosh is actually... this is something that I found out when I did research on like Naito, like a couple of years ago. Roosh is the original creator of Los Ingobernables.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, because it was when Naito was on his excursion from Japan, and he did like a year in Mexico, and Roosh and Naito and it was somebody else. It was like another American wrestler. They actually made Los Ingobernables in CMLL.
Wow, I did not know that.
It was either CMLL or AAA. Can't remember which. I think it was CMLL, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Dalton Castle is... did you notice he was sort of like wearing a bit of padding at the back?
Yes. Didn't he break his back or something?
Two broken bones in his back.
Oof.
And he elected to not get surgery, but to continue wrestling, which explains this. Well, it's just sort of like a cummerbund, like just above his.
Yeah,
above his
and
height.
I think, and I have made it. Obviously, this match lasts 15 seconds. Squash match. Roosh just clobbers the guy, pins Castle. Castle ends up beating up the boys after, and I'm not sure, weren't the boys at this point going to WWE?
I don't know. can't remember hearing anything about it.
I remember seeing on their Instagram the both of them posing in the property of WWE, blah blah blah, whatever it said. I remember seeing that picture of them both. So I think this was set up getting rid of it because he doesn't have them anymore. So I think the boys are doing something in WWE or God knows what else. I love Dalton Castle, man. He's so charismatic. I love the guy. Love the guy.
He's very charismatic, and he is a good worker when he is 100%. The thing is, I love the gimmick. I really do like the gimmick, but it doesn't seem to be a gimmick that will last forever. It's a bit like I remember like years and years ago, I went back and was watching like all Attitude Era like Raws and pay-per-views and stuff like that, and I always really liked Val Venus. Like I thought he was a really good wrestler, and his gimmick was entertaining. Obviously nowadays, he's doing his best to sort of like kill my childhood love for him. Not in that way.
The money shot, everybody. The money shots. That's all I'm going to say on that fella.
Yeah. But you had the feeling that coming into sort of like year 2000. He would come out in sort of like the same gimmick that he'd been doing since 1998, and it was literally just a case of, it's a bit outdated. This maybe you want to, This is how I felt with Dalton Castle when he was coming out. It was literally just a case of, it's a fun gimmick, really fun gimmick, and as I say, really good wrestler. But there is a time where you have to sort of like mix it up a little bit, but to do it in MSG, I'd literally just had the case of at the finish of this match, like literally Roosh pins him in 15 seconds, and like most of the crowd who had cheered when Castle came out, the majority of them were literally of a case of, really, that's it? And then it didn't really help that he like beat up the boys afterwards, so it was just sort of like, okay, it's a bit of a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, I think this was a setup to write off the boys, because I do think they went off to WWE sometime soon after this. I remember I've met Dalton Castle twice.
Yes, so have I.
He is first time I met him, had the picture, paid for the picture, asked to buy a shirt off him because he had the shirts there and yada yada yada, and the shirt I wanted, which I still have, I'm not wearing unfortunately, that I still have, he only had it in large, but at this point I liked him so much I did not care, it did not fit me. It fits me perfectly now. Nothing to the fact I've been married almost a year and we're in lockdown, but that's fine.
What happens will happen.
Yeah, I'm balding as well. Well, I'm balding. I am bald. Whatever. Anyway, and he was like, oh my God, he sort of like switched off the sort of character he plays and was all of a sudden like, hang on, you're like someone I just meet out the street, not what I've just seen, because he's going, bring me up another boy, and things like that, which nobody leaves Dalton in the corner. He's so in character, and it was so entertaining to hear. And then for him to talk to me and suddenly switch off from this character and be sort of normal, it was kind of like, whoa, okay, you do that too. And I thought he was so nice. He's fantastic, Dalton. But I know he's doing stuff with Joe Hendry now. They're a tag team, which looks quite fun. But yeah, I agree with you that the gimmick could do with
bit of a change up.
Keep
it fresh. Yeah. So straight after that, we have an advert for the G1 show in Dallas. I've watched this show and it's quite a bit of fun, really. And all 5 of the matches in the G1 tournament that take place, they're all different and they're all really entertaining, which is a good show to check out. Well, actually, do you know what? The whole of watching the G1 is probably
just watch the G1. Watch every G1 ever happened ever. Just type in G1, watch it. Yeah,
because pretty much it's the main highlight of sort of like the wrestling calendar. It's the G1 tournament. There was 2 sets of commentators for this show. Ring of Honor were represented by Colt Cabana on collar and Ian Riccaboni, and New Japan had Kevin Kelly mostly, and then there was the translator Chris Charlton, who has done a couple of really interesting books about the history of New Japan. I've got one on my bookshelf called Lion's Pride, which is just basically the whole history of New Japan up until I think about like 2014, 2015. It's a really good read if you sort of like see it on anywhere online or it ever comes on offer and you see it. Really recommend getting it if you're interested in New Japan, but you're just sort of like, oh, I'm wondering, sort of like how it all started and sort of like, the main history of New Japan. It's definitely a book I can recommend. I have in my notes, Ian Riccaboni is literally channeling his inner Gorilla Monsoon with his constant quips of, it's a happening. I seem to remember that there was a particular like pay-per-view in the Hulkamania era. I think it was like a SummerSlam, and literally Gorilla Monsoon is like caught about 20 or 30 times saying the phrase, it will be a happening, or it's a happening, or whatever variation of that it might be. So there's a bit of a hoo-ha-ha as cameras backstage show Juice Robinson laid out in the locker room, which will affect the match after this next one. So match number 3 is for the Women of Honor World Championship. Kelly Klein against the champion Mayu Iwatani. On commentary is Mandy Leone. Do you want to know what she's best known for, Ant?
Oh, God, I dread to think. It certainly isn't commentary, but go on.
Do you remember Adam Rose?
Oh, she was a Rosebud, wasn't she?
She was a recurring Rosebud for like 2000 for like most of his run.
Oh, for God's sake.
That's literally I went on her Wikipedia. It was just sort of like there was a tiny little section in WWE, and it was literally just sort of like going, she was a recurring Rosebud between 2014 and 2015, and then
that is on your Wikipedia page, what the hell are you doing with your life? Sorry, man. I'm sorry, but come on, if you're a recurring dancing bloody whatever you were, oh come on.
And then the next paragraph was she spent some time in at the Performance Center, and then that was a section of WWE just done.
Oh, congratulations. And, whatever. Just whatever. It's a happening. That's the best way to describe this match. It's a happening.
Yeah, it's a happening.
Oh, God, the crowd were dead.
Yes.
Oh.
Mayu and Iwatani, she's apparently, I can't remember, it might have been Meltzer. She literally, like, I think it was like a couple of years ago that he put Mayu, Io Shirai, and Kairi Hojo, who is Kairi Sane in WWE. He literally just put those 3 in sort of like a bracket of being some of the best wrestlers in the world. So, like, safe to say that expectations were high going into this one. Mm-hmm. And then literally the match is 2 minutes old. Kelly Klein gives Mayu a snapmare, and she literally starts holding her back. And I seem to remember at the time that she picked up a back injury, and I think it was here. Because, like, literally, the match just slows way down.
I have noted that, but the commentators were going after Iwatani's knee that she had surgically repaired. Yeah. Before this, I'm not sure. I can't remember the time how close it was, but it's very slow. Yeah, something went wrong here, I think.
She takes the back bump off the snapmare, is holding her back, and she must say something to Kelly Klein because she immediately goes after Mayu's knee. And as I say, there was a lot of, I have in my notes, a lot of mat work in front of an uninterested crowd. I mean, like, Mayu tried getting the crowd into it a little bit. There was a big crossbody to the outside.
Yeah, it just didn't work. I think the crowd were just not up for this, and it was made all the better after the match as well, because they were certainly happy to. They were certainly happy to.
We'll get to it. So, I had a couple of notes about the match. Kelly Klein takes the shittest bump from a poison Hurricane Rana I've ever seen in my life. To be honest,
that's literally word for word what I've got written down. I put accident question mark.
To be honest with you, it's kind of even calling it a bump. She almost sort of like rolled back as if she was trying to do a backwards roll. Yeah. And then there was a released German suplex that I think Mayu was trying to flip over for and just sort of like land on her front, and she very nearly landed on her head. And then Kelly Klein hits two AAs, two attitude adjustments, which she calls something or other. I don't know. I didn't post it.
K-powers.
Fucking hellfire.
Yeah.
So she hits one normal one and then one with an aeroplane spin to win the match and the title at 10 minutes 38. I literally had in my notes like, God bless them. They did try, but it was there. It really was there.
I actually feel sorry for both of these two women because they're not bad wrestlers. They're not bad draws. They work good, and I think they deserved a lot more. But at the end of the day, when you see the card, it's one of them things, isn't it?
I saw glimpses of what Mayu Iwatani can do, but just like Kelly Klein just like couldn't keep up with her. So like Mayu had to slow it down to a pace that she was comfortable with, which just adversely affected the match. It really did.
Yeah.
And this post-match that you're talking about.
Oh, shit.
So, like, Kelly Klein is in the ring crying with the belt, which, to be honest with you, maybe someday she'll have kids and literally it'll just be a case of, Mom, you won a championship in Madison Square Garden. Can we watch that match?
No.
Do you really think she's going to want to show her kids this match, particularly with what goes on in this after?
She's going to stop it straight after, I guarantee you that, before these two wonderful people come down the ramp.
It's Angelina Love and Velvet Sky.
Yay.
And you can hear the crowd just sort of like going, I'm sorry, it's 2019, not 2009. This isn't TNA. This isn't TNA. And it was literally, well, I didn't make the note until sort of like late into the next match, but it was actually sort of like here that I had note, has Vince Russo taken over the booking of Ring of Honor? Because it was literally just a case of,
they're there.
they turn up, and guess what? They were, I don't really want to call TNA popular, but it did have a fan base. They were popular in their own way 10 years ago, but that was 10 years ago. You can't just present them.
Is being popular in TNA a good thing?
Well,
around that time, just saying.
Well, there's a good popular in TNA and a bad popular in TNA.
They were bad popular. I'm sorry, they were. Let's be honest. And by the way, Velvet Sky, the only reason you were on this pay-per-view, the only reason you were near Ring of Honor is because your boyfriend Bully Ray is actually in it himself. And I think he pulls the strings, let's be honest. That is the only reason she and Love are here.
Yes.
End of.
And like Angelina Love is there because she's mates with Velvet Sky. So like literally they confront Kelly Klein and Mandy Leon comes off of commentary and they beat her up and they get the lipstick and they do the freaking anarchy symbol on her forehead.
I've written, why the anarchy sign? That's the anarchy sign. It's their own sort of A, for God's sake.
Oh no, it's their logo for their faction, the LAOW.
About as imaginative as I expect from them.
About as imaginative as PCB. Well, no, actually, because the LAOW, they actually had to think up of a striking word. PCB, they just took the first initials of the first names from Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Paige. So,
let's be honest, you look through a dictionary and they got the A-L and thought, right, that'll do. Off we go.
And they look through a thesaurus of just sort of like, what's an identical word for glamorous? Alluring? Allure! Money.
We are the allure, yeah. And it's worked so well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was horrid. The crowd. instantly shit on this.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Felt awful for Kelly Klein because this is her moment. She's won the title at...
Oh, and do you know what was the most tragic thing? She's still sort of like, after the Allure go up and they're standing on the ramp and they're just going, oh, look at her, she's a winner.
She still goes and celebrates with A on her fucking head.
And she's there posing with the title. I'm like, oh no.
You've got an A on your head, love. Come on.
You just want to be like an Irish mammy. You're just sort of like, oh, you've got slob all over you. Let me get that off.
Get down from there now. What you playing at? Get down from there now. Come around here. Let me wipe that shit off your face. Anyway, that's the sound of it.
Let me get a wet tea towel. You can't be going out like that. So people will think you're weird.
I hear you're a racist now, Velvet. Anyway.
Ring of Honor's so Caprice Coleman joins the commentary booth, and oh fuck me, this next fucking bit. Oh Christ.
Again, another moment where I thought, oh, Make-A-Wish are doing a fantastic effort right there. I was like,
so out next is a Billboard artist who, and I have the quote here from Ian Riccoboni, Ring of Honor play-by-play announcer, has perfected the art of nerdcore rap. What the fuck is nerdcore rap? Is it like hardcore?
I'm a balding white guy. I have no idea.
I'm guessing nerdcore rap, and I'm guessing it's hardcore rap for nerdlingers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, this guy walked out, and I was just like,
yeah, Mega Ran. Never heard of him.
Mega Ran, is that his name? I didn't even clock his name.
Yeah,
I literally put some rapper I do not know, full stop, very annoying, full stop, nobody cared.
Yeah, instantly get booed. He starts rapping, I started sighing. It
was very awkward, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
His performance was very awkward.
Well, the thing is, it's just sort of like, he comes out and he's like, yeah, I want to perform this song for... that was specifically wrote for this event, and it was literally, it had the same effect as sort of like, it's like not New Kids on the Block. I seem to remember there being like an early WrestleMania where one of these like dance rap groups, sort of like Oops Upside Your Head said Oops Upside Your Head. They're literally there and they have a fucking concert with like DJ decks in the middle of the ring. And this was literally a case of when I say G1, you say Supercard, and everyone just going, will you shut the fuck up?
G1. That was it. That was literally even the crowd are turning around going, is anyone else gonna? No, we're not doing this. Okay, who are you again? It was so awkward. I felt sorry for the guy, but then
I felt sorry for the guy
because he clearly felt confident in confident in his music, not confident in going out there because he knew.
Yeah,
I think he knew that no one's gonna give a shit. And as soon as Bully Ray comes down here, which is it's always planned as well.
Yeah, I added my notes. Oh look, another byproduct from a previous TNA era comes out. Fucking no, I'm sorry, but much like the Beautiful People, well past his sell-by date. He was prominent. Well, let's see, it's 2019, so he was prominent like 6 years ago as the leader of Aces and Eights, who, I doubt you could say was a thing. It wasn't really that much of a popular thing, to be honest with you, but hey-ho.
It tried to be a thing. But so is that sums up TNA and Impact.
They tried.
They're trying.
They tried to be a thing, but, God bless them.
They're like the wrestling Make-A-Wish. Just helping them out.
I have in mind, well, he comes out and just basically... So this Megaran dude, he's like, come on, Bully, this is the second time you've done this. So you're telling me there was a time before this where they attempted the exact same thing?
Which is, I sort of think that there was people in the crowd that knew that, which is why it got the reaction it got.
Well, what, 10 people? 10? Because, right, let's be honest, people. Can you honestly say if Ring of Honor and Ring of Honor alone was doing a show in Madison Square Garden, would they have sold out? The answer is no. The majority of these fans have come for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Not come to see you, Bully. Not come to see you, Bully.
So,
which reflects in, well, what's happening to Ring of Honor now. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I've got notes on that for towards the end of the show. So yeah, this Megaran dude is just basically scared off by Bully. Well, Bully Ray pushes him. This Megaran dude actually gets in his face, and then like Ray just kicks him out.
There was a bit where I thought, hang on a minute, is this a work or is this just turning into a shoot? Because Bully gets his chain from round his neck and proper goes for him.
Yeah.
Not like you always see with the chain, you know, they balance it out so it hits something behind them, so it looks like it's hitting them, but it's not, and they stomp their feet. This was a proper whipping him with the chain.
Yeah.
It was proper full of anger, and I thought, hang on a minute, was that a bit of a shoot there? Have we seen something we're not meant to see there?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't really take that much to piss off Bully Ray. Like, I'm reminded of the story of when Stacy Keibler first came into the WWE, and he was doing something in the mirror, and she walked in front of him and was literally fixing her hair in the same mirror as Bully Ray, and he got really pissed off about it, apparently. So, something tells me it doesn't take that much to piss him off. I don't know. It might just be me.
It's definitely not you.
Yeah. So he just basically had an open challenge for a New York City street fight. It was initially meant to be Juice Robinson, but Juice Robinson was laid out backstage. So it's instead answered by Flip Gordon.
Love Flip.
Flip Gordon is, well, it was quite an entertaining character because quite a lot of his backstory was told really well on the early days of being the Elite, and it was his main story was focused around whether he would get on the All In show, which was sort of like the prototype the prototype pay-per-view before All Elite Wrestling was started up. And sort of like the main story was Flip trying to get booked on the show, but Cody, being the arsehole that he was at the time in character, was just literally cutting him off at every single avenue. And the way he got on the show was being a masked wrestler in an over-the-top battle royal to, ironically, earn a Ring of Honor title shot later on in the night. And he won it, and that's how he got into the show. But, it was just a case of, the week-by-week story of, him constantly getting cut down, but still trying to find new ways, was, entertaining in its own way. But that's my only real experience with Flip Gordon. About almost immediately, Bully Ray does his best impression of John Cena and literally bellows out a spot where he catches Flip Gordon in midair with a Bubba Cutter. Literally, Flip's about to jump out of the corner, and you literally hear Bubba go, "Corner!" And then he immediately hits him with a Bubba Cutter. I was like, for fuck's sake. And then, literally, 2 minutes goes by, and in runs Silas Young and Shane Taylor. Now, Silas Young billed as sort of like the last real man in professional wrestling, and I remember he had a tag team with the Beer City Bruiser, and they would sort of do vignettes where Silas Young would teach him how to do all these sort of manly things, like change a tire, squeeze. It's just basically doing the same thing that Steven Regal did with his real man's man gimmick, but it was just sort of under the Ring of Honor.
Such a man. Anyway, love that. Love that.
Oh, it's a fantastic thing. I always remember one of the times when WWE was over in the UK, and Daniel Bryan had a match with William Regal.
Oh, they ripped him, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ripped him.
Literally, it's you know, his normal William Regal theme. And literally halfway through you get clonk, he's a man.
And Daniel Bryan's wetting himself. Regal finds it really funny.
Wetting himself.
Oh,
it
was really funny. It was really funny, yeah.
Yeah. So that's Silas Young. Shane Taylor, the only experience I have of Shane Taylor is he was initially in a tag team with Keith Lee when they first came into Ring of Honor.
Really?
Yeah, and then Keith Lee has gone on to pastures in NXT and the like. So yeah, they beat up on Flip. They stretch him out over the table. Bully's going to whack him with a kendo stick. And out comes Mark Haskins and Juice Robinson. Juice is recovered. Basically says that why don't we turn this from a single New York City street fight into a 6-man New York City street fight. And this is literally where I had in my notes that Vince Russo had taken over the booking duties. Obviously, I meant to put it earlier.
What shocked me was Juice completely no-sold the fact that he was laid out not 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
not even wait,
you were dead. You were dead. Yeah. You were dead, mate.
Do you know what? This reminded me so much of that Royal Rumble where Roman was in at number 1 and he'd been taken out by, you know, the the international party. It was like Wade Barrett, Sheamus.
What were they called?
I can't remember.
The World Elite. Not World Elite, is that it? Or was that the TNA thing?
No, that was the TNA thing. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to fucking look this up now because otherwise it's gonna really, really annoy me. It's a
league. It's gonna be the League of something then.
Oh, it's the League of Nations.
League of Nations.
Which
was Barrett, Rusev, Sheamus, and Del Rio.
ADR.
Yeah.
ADR. Yes.
They were basically the Un-Americans again.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, they'd taken out Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was they were going to cast him out, but Roman just ended up walking to the back, and then just appeared like 20 minutes, half an hour later, and no-sold everything. Bearing in mind, sort of like in exactly the same match, Kevin Owens, who in the opener had gone through 2 tables because of Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, as he's known nowadays, literally came out and was literally dragging himself to the ring. And it was just sort of like, I don't know why, but you just saying that of Juice not selling this, it just reminded me of, you know, Superman Roman. But
if he came out with like some kind of like bandaging or something like that, or like even a neck brace,
make a little bit of effort.
Yeah, but he just walked out.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hang on, you were hurt, so you not coming out. I mean, what the hell? But it works in the end. It works in the end.
I'd also have in my notes, Bully Ray channeling his inner Shelly Martinez when pulled into the ring post, just goes, "Oh, my balls!"
I haven't noted that down. I've not mentioned Shelly Martinez. That's a fucking good one.
Yeah, the famous one, the famous bit in TNA where Shelly Martinez gets hit in the breadbasket. You know, the women's breadbasket, and the
women's breadbasket.
Well, you know, it interferes with my spot because, like, immediately when she gets hit there, she just starts selling by screaming, "My vag, my vag!"
I remember watching that now and going, "Okay, don't scream that, please. Don't scream that. No, that's something you don't scream. No."
So yeah, he did this not once but twice. I honestly didn't have, bar the finish, I had no notes for this because it was just
the kendo sticks, the kendo shots that Flip takes. He literally starts bleeding down his back.
Yeah,
and that was almost the start of this match.
And
they looked awful.
Yeah,
they looked awful, and credit to him because he must have been in such shit pain.
Well, to be honest with you, he's a former Marine.
He is, yeah.
I guarantee he's probably experienced a hell of a lot worse.
What I also found was really, really funny. Shane Taylor was setting up a table and the crowd starts chanting, "You're not Devon." They do this not once but twice to him. Which I find really
Which is ironic because I thought they were saying we want Devon.
No, they were chanting, "You're not Devon."
Yeah.
I think I managed to get. They got close to the crowd, and obviously you hear someone say it quite clear, saying, "You're not Devon."
You know, New York City isn't without its racists. So yeah.
Well, we're banned from New York City now. Good luck getting in there.
Well, okay. I'd literally the finish of this match is Flip Gordon hits a 450 splash on Bully and wins it.
Yeah.
Start to finish, this entire thing went nearly 25 minutes.
Too long.
Oh, you're freaking telling me. And do you know what? It's doubly annoying because it eats into the next match. And the next match is fucking amazing.
Yeah. The next match is Dragon Lee, Taiji Ishimori, and Bandido for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, I believe. Oh, I love these three.
Oh,
this was I love these three. Heard of Bandido. I've not seen much of Dragon Lee. Seen plenty of Ishimori to know what that boy's about.
Taiji Ishimori, I'd heard things about when he was in Noah, and when he got signed to New Japan, I was like, okay, right, this sounds really freaking good. And then he had an awesome match with Hiromu Takahashi in the finals of that year's Best of Super Juniors, and I was like, right, okay, yeah, this guy's fucking great. Dragon Lee he's predominantly, he was CMLL. He is signed to Ring of Honor in this moment in time, when we're recording it in May of 2020. So he is best known, I would say, unfortunately, for being involved in a match with said Hiromu Takahashi, where he got dropped literally on the top of his skull and broke his neck.
Yeah.
And was out for pretty much 18 months.
I was going to say at least 2 years, year and a half.
Old Hiromu. There's clips available of it on YouTube for all you sadistic motherfuckers that want to check it out. It is fucking disgusting.
Yeah, watch it scream.
Yes. Watch it and go, which is ironic because there will be another Japanese wrestler that I talk about that was involved in a future incident that will make you go, Bandido, I only really sort of like started seeing in, the little preview packages that Pro Wrestling Guerrilla have on their YouTube page.
Uh-huh.
He started showing up on there, and I was just literally a case of, okay, this guy's like your typical innovative luchador, but I think his look is really cool.
It's new. It's something that it's a very new look.
It's a different look because the thing is, you've got these Mexican luchadors like Rey Horus and Flamita and initially Rey Fenix until Rey Fenix changes look up a little bit, but of just sort of like mask and just normal tights, and you just sort of like you look completely interchangeable with each other. Whereas Bandido, he has the long greasy hair, he's got the mask, but it's also got sort of like a front mask bit.
Yes, like a bank robber thing, yeah.
Yeah, like a bandana thing across the face, and it's a really cool look. I just have in my notes 3 great junior heavyweights who are doing too much to make notes for, and I didn't really make too many notes for this one because it was very
spot after spot after spot, but it was all very, very in quick succession.
Yeah.
Well, it was great. It was great. Don't get me wrong.
It was
just
really
very
good.
Quick. Yeah, these guys know what they were doing.
It was a complete spot fest, but it was an amazing spot fest.
Yeah.
Caprice Coleman on commentary actually made a really good point. The fact that they do all these high flying stuff, but they're also all 3 of them have sort of like a power background to them, which sort of like is instrumented with sort of like different variations of suplexes that's showcased in the match, which was really, really cool to see.
Bandido at one point has both Ishimori and Dragon Lee on the top rope,
Oh my
and
days.
it just, I panicked when I was trying to describe it, and I've just written, Bandito kicks both, then carries both over his head for a super moonsault body slam. I just got that excited. I thought that's what it is. That's the closest thing I can describe it as.
I called it a
looked
double.
Amazing.
I called it a double back flipping fall away slam from the top rope, which was a hell of an impressive move. And I probably would have been more impressed had I not seen an old Steiner Brothers match from WCW in 1992, because it's known for being quite stiff. They're in there with like two New Japan guys, Tatsumi Fujinami and Takeshi Iizuka, and it's known for just sort of like being this really sort of like stiff, hard-hitting match. It was quite entertaining, actually. And Scott Steiner did the same move that Bandito does in this match, but he did it from a standing position. And he actually did it twice, because the first time he tried it, he botched it and very nearly landed on his head. But like the second time he does it, he like literally does like a full moonsault flip and lands it perfectly.
This was, I believe, one of the shortest matches on the card.
Yeah, it only went 8 minutes 54.
Watch this match. I implore you to watch this match. If this went on for another at least 5 to 10 minutes, these boys would have taken it. These boys would have taken that night. And I think it was sort of did already, but
yeah, it was just a shame that it was so short, and I think that's why they went at the pace that they went at. Whereas I think if there was an extra sort of like 5, maybe 10 minutes, they probably could have like slowed it down a bit and probably got even more than they did. So yeah, the finish comes when Dragon Lee knees Ishimori out the ring, and then he ends up hitting Bandito with a deadlift suplex into a sit-out powerbomb and pins him to win the title. As I say, 8 minutes 54. It was quite mad at times, and I just wanted to see more of it, because
I think that's the only criticism there.
But it's all you can say is it wasn't their fault, because the last match itself, from bell to bell, well, segment to segment, went nearly 25 minutes, and really quite annoying.
It did, and I'm just going to say about the Bully Ray Open Challenge thing. It didn't really set up or lead on to anything else.
No, it was just there.
It was just there, and I hate it when things are simply just put there. If they work and they turn out great, fine, fair enough. I'll eat my words, whatever. But this was just put there for the sake of being there.
Yes.
And for the sake of 25 minutes, you can look back on that paper and think, right, could we take 10 minutes off that segment? Where else could we have put that? And I think you'd have put all 10 minutes on Dragon Lee, Ishimori, and Bandito. And yeah, that's my only criticism of this bit.
Yes. So we'll get on to match number 6. It's a 4-corner survival tag match for both the Ring of Honor and IWGP tag team titles. The Ring of Honor tag team champs representing Villain Enterprises, PCO and Brody King. The IWGP champions, Tamatonga Tangaloa, the Guerrillas of Destiny. Also is Mark and Jay, the Briscoes, and the 4th team is Evil and Sanada. Now, PCO, the former Pierre-Carl Ouellette, the one of the members of the Quebecers in WWF in the mid-90s. He was also Jean-Pierre Lafitte, as well, in the New Generation, who had a whole month angle feud with Bret the Hitman Hart, all based around the fact that PCO nicked Bret Hart's jacket. And that was the context of the story. I'll mention it here. PCO, he's 51 years old, and he does 4 things in this match, and pretty much every single one of them involves a flip. Now, people call out Will Ospreay for being a fucking spot monkey. PCO is a freaking spot monkey.
Let me tell you something. But he somehow pulls it off. I don't know how.
He somehow didn't die.
it's because of his age. I believe he's blind in one eye as well.
Yeah.
Because of his age and the power bomb that he takes from God. From inside the ring to the outside, and you hear the foot. I know they've got those little bloody mat things, but Jesus, that's like a what? I don't know how many feet that drop is, but it's what?
It was a stupid fucking bump. It was a stupid bump. Because the thing is, like, we'll just say this, people. Like, the match is just there. It's a collection of moves, like, you know, in and out. You know, each tag team gets a chance to do their own bits. So, the Gorillas of Destiny get PCO up in double powerbomb, and they literally powerbomb him from the ring over the top rope to the floor. His body splats on the fucking floor. It was mad. It was dangerous. It was somewhat stupid because PCO just sort of like sat up, and I was like, if you no sell this fucking powerbomb, I'm just done. I'm done.
He got back up a foot. He kicked up like a Kane and the Undertaker would, like steering a foot.
Yeah,
oh my God, I'd be led on my back for at least a month.
He sat up. He went, ah, and then just flopped back down again. It was like, what was the point of freaking sitting up from it? Because you're just taking away from this ridiculous freaking move that, you know, is, well, but, you know, I realise it's Madison Square Garden, but for fuck's sake, man, you're 51 years old. Don't be taking a flat back bump over the top rope.
The thing with PCO
nothing to break your fall.
The thing is with PCO is he's got the taste of this when he does something extra freaking painful, extra like that, and the sentons onto the apron. There must be some kind of addictive buzz he's got from it that makes him want to keep doing it.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't really help that with professional wrestling, given in many ways how it is, that a lot of fans clamour for this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, really. Yeah, as I say, there was a lot of moves, a lot of, you know, each tag team got a chance to do bits and pieces in the ring. But to be honest with you, the only time the crowd popped were for the big spots that PCO did.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there was nothing else really going on.
They were keen for him when he was making his entrance in the electric chair.
Yeah.
And everything was sort of built around him.
If
you know what I mean. I think that he had that such big hype when he was doing all these spots, and he was getting really good momentum, and I did feel it was really built up for him. This match was for him. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Regardless of who won.
Yeah. So the finish comes. Brody King gets a kendo stick shot to the back. Tama Tonga hits him with a gun stun, and then there's a suplex into a top rope powerbomb, and the Gorillas of Destiny win in 9:45. Before we get onto the post match, because I had a feeling you were going to jump the gun, I just happened. Yeah. I literally had in my notes, it was nothing special. It was literally just a bunch of moves, and the crowd weren't that into it.
All these tag teams in here are very, very good tag teams.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very good. But I do feel, like I said before, this was built up and around for PCO to do his thing, while the others just did something in the background.
Yeah.
So PCO would do something incredible, and the crowd was like, yeah, and then they slowly die down when that allowed the other guys to do their things and still get a reaction, some sort of. Then when it died down completely, PCO did something else, built it back up, and then it dies slowly back down. It was sort of like that.
Yeah.
Again, I do think these four teams could do much more. Is 9 minutes 45 seconds long enough for a four-way tag match?
I mean, it depends what you do with it, to be honest with you.
Especially, again, it's like we said before, that Bully Ray segment took, and you can even argue the end of the women's match. because that was a good 3 or 4 minutes, surely.
Yeah.
You can argue that even spread those minutes out, put them in the tag match, and put them with Dragon Lee and Ishimori and Bandito. You would get more bang for your buck.
There was a lot of wasted time when it comes to sort of like the Ring of Honor side of things.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot of wasted time. And then immediately, as soon as this bell rings, there's a little confrontation there's a little brouhaha at ringside, is what I'll say. The cameras do their best, but the commentary basically give it away so much, by going, oh, there's stuff happening at ringside, but we don't really want to acknowledge it. The age-old thing of just sort of like of trying to make sure that you don't sort of pass this off as a work, but you work yourself so much that it stands out head or tails of being a work. Now we should probably make mention that a certain Enzo Amore and Big Cass jumped the barricade, and they started getting into a fisticuff with the Briscoe brothers, which in turn brought out Bully Ray, which in turn took the entire focus off the fact that the Guerrillas of Destiny have won both tag team titles, which I heard very much pissed them off. So this little thing here was actually I've got the quotes here. So Enzo Amore and Big Cass, they invaded, they jumped the barricade. They tried to pass it off as a shoot, but you could tell instantly, as much as they wanted to shy away from it, that this was a work. And the story behind it was that Enzo Amore got a call from a executive in charge of Sinclair Media, who own Ring of Honor, and said that they wanted to do this invasion, make it look like a shoot, and that would subsequently lead to them being brought in to Ring of Honor Wrestling. Now, the problem is that throughout the entirety of Ring of Honor, when it comes to sort of like production, wrestlers in the locker room, all of that, there was a total of 3 people in the entire company who knew anything about it. None of the security knew, which is why they were able to get over the barricade so easily, because they thought it was part of the show. Obviously, no one in the audience knew about it, because immediately there was big chance of fuck you, Enzo. And most importantly, there was nobody in New Japan Pro Wrestling that knew about this.
Yeah, I was going to say no one at New Japan really knew, which cause you could clearly see it pissed Tama Tonga. I've never seen GOD look so pissed in my lifetime. But to be honest, if Enzo Amore jumps over right, let's just get this out of the way now. Big Cass, like what you're doing, Matt. I understand he's gone from some mental health stuff over the last couple of years since the WE things, so I wish him well. The guy's got a bit of charisma about him. He seems like a nice guy. Enzo, stop. Whatever you're doing, Enzo, with its wrestling, rapping, Instagram,
stand-up comedy,
just stop. You have enough money to just live out your life, I'm sure, in a country somewhere, but just stop. Please, just stop.
Are you familiar with Wrestling Soupan?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Do you remember the episode that they did when they found out that Enzo Amore was wanting to do stand-up comedy? And they literally just had a entire episode of just, doing the Enzo Amore stick with my, we're going into stand-up comedy. Hello? Is this thing on? How come he's laughing? Actually, it was a shoot on top of the work, because what Enzo really wanted to do was just sort of like, try a stand-up routine and just say, hey, I did stand-up comedy in Madison Square Garden, and they didn't get it. They weren't laughing.
He talks so much shit.
Oh.
The man talks shit for the sake of talking shit.
The fact that he once tried comparing himself and Cass to the Road Warriors is evidence enough that, there's a lot of people out there just sort of like going, oh, I think it's an act. I think it's an act. There's evidence there. He's quite a smart man. I really don't think he is.
Where's this evidence?
Well, apparently he's a very bright individual, according to people who have worked with him before in WWE. It was just a case of his personality and his attitude that were his problem. Do you know?
Go on.
Do you know that they were going for for new ring names?
I did not know.
Yeah. So Enzo Amore.
Go on, tell me. Yeah.
So Enzo Amore's new ring name would be Enzo, and it was spelled lowercase n, capital Z, lowercase o. Get it?
Right. Okay.
Get it? Because it sounds like Enzo, but it's spelled differently.
You say the N and the Z and the N and the Z and the O. Shut that fucking guy. Fuck me.
Come you ain't laughing.
The guy. I don't like seeing people laughed at, but he gets laughed at, and he's a walking, talking, living joke.
Yes.
Please stop.
And it's
talking shit, trying to generate hype for yourself because you think you're some sort of celebrity. Stop talking shit.
It's funny to take the piss out of as well, because he hasn't done anything major yet. He's just attempted rap, attempted stand-up comedy, even attempted rock at one point. How
many things is he going to try before he learns that he's not fucking good at anything?
Well, there's quite a long list of stuff that you can do in media, so
Oh, don't! Can someone burn that list and not give it him?
So that was Enzo's new ring name. Do you want to know what Big Cass's new ring name was going to be?
Would it be Kaz XL or something like that?
Yes, it would.
Right, there we go.
So it's spelled lowercase c, lowercase a, and then the rest is capital ZXL. Get it? Because he's big case, He's big case. How come he's laughing? This is gold. This is pure comedy gold.
There is an 18-minute clip on YouTube of Simon Gotch or Simon Grimm telling so many stories about Enzo.
Mm.
And you realise what an absolute utter fuckwit he is.
Yeah. So yeah, this was supposed to be the catalyst for Enzo and Cass to come in, but the backlash to this was so extreme that according to Enzo Amore, they literally got ghosted because they were meant to. This was their sort of big Ring of Honor debut. They were meant to show up at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view that was in June, and then sort of be brought in from there. And yeah, the Ring of Honor just cut the losses and ran for the hills.
I mean, wouldn't you, if Enzo? Wouldn't you?
Well, I wouldn't have done this to begin with, because this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, I think, with a majority of people who would have been watching for New Japan, but they would have thought, oh, Ring of Honor's there. They've had a backload of talent come through and who have gone off and done big things in WWE or New Japan or whatever. I'd be willing to see what's going on. And yeah, they're sort of presented with that, and they expect you to fall for the fact that this is a shoot, but when in actuality it isn't. We're actually bringing these guys in, and yeah, you're just fucking insulting the viewers' intelligence, and just sort of alienating a potential fan base. And we haven't even got to the world title match yet.
Well, Ring of Honor makes some absolutely horrific decisions here.
Oh, yeah.
But to have someone, I mean, Enzo and Cass weren't exactly popular at this point. They didn't have the momentum they had, say, when they came from NXT onto Raw and people were going the Raw after Mania.
Yeah, doing this shtick.
This was when Enzo Amore's reputation Not saying that Big Cass's was, but especially Enzo's. Big Cass has always been, I think, has been held in relative high regard in the wrestling world.
Well, I mean, the thing is, sort of like the latter stages of Big Cass's career, when they tried to give him a singles push, they gave him the feud with Daniel Bryan, and I think there was a case where he very nearly, or he sort of like hurt Daniel Bryan when he was working with him in the ring. And then there was literally a case of sort of like attitude problems when, to be honest with you, looking back over that feud, when you're sort of like giving him material of just sort of like beating up a midget that's dressed up like Daniel Bryan, it's,
it's not going to do him any good, is it?
No. Well, it's not going to help someone who apparently, according to the corporation that's giving him this shit to work with, apparently has attitude problems.
I mean, to be honest, I'd have attitude problems if I was given the material that he had.
Well, yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, I forgot, in the confusion of all this, Toriano came out and made off with the IWGP tag team belts.
Yeah, God bless. That was really, because there's a bit where he just seems to on the ramp, and then he slowly, from behind his back, pulls the tag titles and just slowly walks off with them. It's really fun. It's really funny.
Yeah, well, it's literally just one of those that it's in the background because it isn't the main focus. Like, everybody just isn't paying attention to Yano. And, like, literally, they're cutting from shot to shot. Sort of like, they'll show the ring. You can still see the brawl going around the outside. So they cut to sort of like a shot of, the Titantron that's above where, sort of like the screens would be for, like, a basketball game or whatever. Yeah. Then they cut to the commentators. You can see fucking Big Cass towering over everybody else. And, this was around
about... Enzo just fucking shouting all sorts of words.
Whoa! Is this thing on?
My hand is a microphone.
Get it?
Because I've got a microphone tattooed on my hand. Shut up. I can't. He's that little. When you've got a fly in the room, you're just trying to whiz it away, and it's just going buzz. Yeah, he is that. That's Enzo Amore, but it's Italian.
So this like whole rigmarole, this whole shoot. No, it isn't a shoot. Lasted nearly 3.5 minutes, and it just fucking. It pissed this crowd off so fucking much.
Because they saw right through it.
Oh, yeah.
They saw right, and thank God they did. They saw right through this.
Yeah.
It showed.
Oh, it did indeed.
Anyway, moving on, please.
Match number 7 is for the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. The champion, Zack Sabre Jr. against the ace of New Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi. I literally had I had in my notes, it's a Zack Sabre Jr. match, which means you get a lot of mat-based wrestling, which isn't a bad thing, because as we said, sort of like towards the start of the show, like Zack Sabre Jr. is one of the best in the world when it comes to technical mat wrestling. I mean, it's just it's a joy to behold.
I've made a note in the transitions from move to move are so clean and are so well done. That alone gets the pop that say a dive would or a high risk move would. They are done so well by both men that it's really, really good. And that was the most impressive thing about it. But then again, that's why I expected coming into watching this. It's what I expected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I love about Zack Sabre is when, like, I'm reminded of the match I saw live that he had with Okada, and the story of the match was basically Okada constantly trying to hit the Rainmaker on Zack Sabre, and Zack Sabre pretty much countering every single time with just this amazing contraption of, like, contorting Okada's body and just sort of like catching him and putting him in all these sort of like mad submission holes, which was sort of like similar here. I mean, there's a bit earlier on in the match where Tanahashi goes for an elbow drop from the ground, and Zack Sabre literally catches him and puts him in sort of like a cross arm breaker. Yeah. And there's another bit where Tanahashi is sort of like in the skin the cat position, And Zack immediately, before Tanahashi can even try to skin the cat, literally goes over and just starts like wrapping him up in an armbar.
Yeah, I've made a note of that. It's such. I want to say the word believable. You know what I mean? It's what you would do in a fight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you would do in it. If you're an expert at submissions or arm bars or whatever you do, you would do that. That's what you would do, and that's what Zack Sabre Jr. does so well.
Yeah.
This joint manipulation, the finish, whatever that was at the finish, looked horrific.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it reminded me of when he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, like a couple of years prior, and he had a match with Noam Dar, and he did something similar. And when he literally wrenched the arm back, it literally like he'd pulled Noam Dar's shoulder out of his socket. It was pretty much exactly the same thing here with Tanahashi, because it's the kind of submission where you wrap him up like a pretzel, and you can hear the crowd just going, "Oh my fucking days! Jesus, he's gonna fucking break something if Tanahashi doesn't quit here."
And I think his submissions are more, but if you look at something like the Walls of Jericho, say, you can sort of see where that wouldn't hurt as much as maybe they put on.
Yeah.
Or sharpshooter. This, oh my God, it was like some kind of medieval torture device what you did to him. It was horrible. He sort of like bends both arms straight back. This isn't like slightly under the back.
Yeah,
he
straight
bends them
behind his back.
Straight back.
Yeah.
As you would if you just held them out in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was screaming. My wife was doing a little skincare thing in here, and I'm screaming in the other room while this is going on. Completely interrupting these 7 ladies talking about skincare. I'm screaming in the other room. Tanahashi's almost. It was like something out of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
He just needs to grab back, put his foot on his back, pull his arms off, and fatality. That's what I was expecting, and that's why it was so good. It looks so fucking painful.
Yeah. The only real issue that I had with this match is that the main focus of Zack Sabre's attack was to the left arm of Tanahashi. But Kevin Kelly sort of like throughout the match had been mentioning how Tanahashi, when he was wrestling in the G1, the New Japan Cup, he had his knee targeted, and that was how Sanada had beaten Tanahashi in the New Japan Cup. So it was a bit like,
I can't remember who said it, but I think someone else, one of the other commentators, sort of said trying to recover from it, saying, "Well, his knee's already busted. Wouldn't you go after the arm now? Why would he go after the knee? That's already busted."
I think it was Caprice Coleman.
Yeah.
It was literally just a case of, well, his arm's injured anyway, so why wouldn't he just like continue to go after that injured body part?
And I was like, thank God you said that, because it sort of made it better.
It was a nice way. It was a nice way of sort of covering for it, and plus it adds another element into sort of like future Tanahashi matches, because like I can remember one of the first like series of matches that I watched of Tomohiro Ishii. Like one of his sort of like stories throughout a G1 tournament was that early in the tournament he'd separated his shoulder, and rather than sort of like backing out of the tournament, he'd literally just sort of like taped his shoulder up to continue wrestling in the tournament. And this is sort of like a New Japan thing where this like injury, this like working of a body part would probably come into effect in sort of later matches further into the year, which is what I really like about New Japan. There's just a
good continuity.
There's a continuity basis, and it develops into sort of like, well, there's the storyline that's coming up in the next match that is literally just sort of like a year in the making sort of thing. So yeah, I didn't really want to make too many notes about this match because, as I say, it's pure technical wrestling. Tanahashi all the time is just literally trying to survive, really.
Yeah.
The pure torture of Zack Sabre, but is eventually caught up and, as I say, wrapped in wrapped up like a pretzel, and Tanahashi has to verbally submit.
It looked awful. It looked horrific.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
I don't think I've ever screamed at a submission before. I think that's the first time. Screamed, literally screamed. Mm-hmm. It was awful, but good.
Yeah. So Zack Sabre gets the win at 15 minutes 14. As I say, the wrestling was really good at times. It was really, really good. But the one thing that you don't get from Tanahashi matches when they're outside of Japan is the emotional connection with the crowd, and you didn't get that here because they were behind Tanahashi, but it's a different when you're used to sort of like Tanahashi being the centerpiece of like literally everybody is in love with him, everybody is like literally reacting to everything he does or is being done to him. It's sort of a bit of it did take away a little bit from the match, but I could still appreciate the match. It was really good.
Yeah, I think Zack Sabre, he was trying to be the heel, that slapping in the face, shoving him around. Like, come on then, your typical heel stuff.
Yeah.
But again, when you see Zack Sabre Jr. on the card, you know what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we got.
Yeah, that is what we got indeed. So match number 8 is for the IWGP Intercontinental title. The Golden Star Kota Ibushi against the Intercontinental Champion Tetsuya Naito. The first of 3 promo packages that we got for the last 3 matches on here. Show clips of the AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura match from Wrestle Kingdom 10. Show clips of Kenny Omega and show clips of Chris Jericho, just basically putting over the importance of the belt. I was saying here about sort of like a storyline that's a year in the making, and sort of Naito has put the feelers in that he wants to be the first man to hold both the IWGP World title and the Intercontinental title at the same time, which, as I say, is like a year-long story that feeds into the Wrestle Kingdom that happens in. I'd say it's sort of like in 9 months time at this point. There is a chilling line from Ibushi here when they're sort of like going through the promo packages, and this is a quote: "The more brutal it gets, the more fun I have when describing wrestling Naito." And I'd literally have in my notes, guarantee you'll think differently come June the 9th, which I will get into more depth at the end of this match. Both men are over. Both men, like, this match, before they even lock up, there's like a holy shit chant. And when you think about it, it's Kota Ibushi and Tetsuya Naito fighting for a New Japan title in Madison Square Garden. It's a bit fucking mad.
Yeah. These two guys are over as hell. They're great wrestlers in their own right, great workers, reputation around the world. Yeah, I expected the crowd to be like this. I expected these guys to deliver. They did. Simple as. Well, earlier on, there was when they go to the outside.
Is this the Irish whip spot into the barricade?
Yeah, and
train gets in the way.
A guy gets in the way, and Naito sort of like squares up to him, like, get out the way.
He's not vicious about it in his squaring up either. He's literally just like Naito being in character, just sort of like, what the fuck, man.
It was Naito being Naito.
Yeah.
And I sort of got that. And it was because they repeat the spot, then next thing you know, Naito's like shaking his hand.
Well, I mean, I think he shakes his hand. I mean, like, with Naito being Naito, I wouldn't be surprised if he's sort of like, offering his hand, and then when the trainer goes to shake it, he's sort of like, yeah, fuck off. There was... I sort of like had like a little graph that I had of which I labelled the nasty bump camp, the nasty bump count, I should say, because it's Kota Ibushi versus Tetsuya Naito, and they are known for having quite bad landings on
dropping each other on their heads, basically.
Yes, like case in point, like literally 5 or 6 minutes into the match, there's a bit where Naito hits what is essentially a Claymore kick on Ibushi, and Ibushi takes like this flat back bump and lands right on the back of his head.
And it was a flush. Well, it is a claymore, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was a flush claymore, and these guys really, really let it go.
The thing you've got to remember as well is that Kota Ibushi has had fusion neck surgery in the past. He has had neck fusion surgery before. Like, he has severely injured his neck about very early on in his career.
But here he is, still really doing it.
Yes.
I mean, these guys have no fear at all. No fear at all.
I guarantee that one of these days it will catch up to him, because it was the same thing with Katsuyori Shibata, who was another hard-hitting, strong style based wrestler who was, very hard-hitting. And one of his spots that he used to do was to do a full-on grab the other guy and literally headbutt him, head, skull to skull. And he did this in a match with Kazuchika Okada in a fucking great match. It's a match I still remember to this day, and I need to go back and watch. But he did this headbutt on Okada, and he cracked his skull, and he literally had a bleeding on the brain. And as soon as his match was completed, he was rushed straight to hospital, and he very nearly died. And he no longer wrestles anymore. He's in charge of the LA dojo in Los Angeles. So it's literally just a case of one of these days he's going to take. Well, to be honest with you, it'll probably be the same way as it'll probably be the same way that Marufuji went, because Marufuji was known for, taking these horrendous bumps right at the back of the head or right at the top of the head, and he died in the ring from just simply taking a bog standard move.
Yeah, I mean, these guys just won't know when to quit. And as much as we're loving their matches and how they are they're doing and how they perform, there's a big element of danger which I honestly do not think they see. I don't think they go into this match thinking, oh, I could break my neck here. That's a bit risky. They just think, all right, let's do it. Do it. And I don't think they take the risk into account. And Look, this was a great match. Don't get us wrong. This was a fantastic, great match. Both these guys are amazing. But these guys could tone it down a bit and still put it on a great match. They don't have to keep dropping each other on the head. It's sort of like their gimmick. It's become their gimmick to drop each other on the head. They think every time them two have to be in a match or in a ring together, they have to drop each other on the head, because that's what gets the crowd going. They think they have to do that to get the crowd going, to get the pops that they want.
But the thing is, they don't.
They could tone it down one or two, save your careers for another 10 years, lads.
Exactly.
Because again, like you say, it will catch up to you. One. I mean, look at Mick Foley, for God's sake.
Yes.
And the likes of Terry Funk. These guys maybe they were a bit more extreme, what with all the barbed wire and the God knows what else.
Death matches and all that.
They didn't literally just drop each other on the head, almost like
every time they were in the ring with each other.
Paralyzed. They could be paralyzed. It just takes one of them moves to go slightly wrong, and I mean, it's an inch either way on the head. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, I was gonna save it for sort of the end of it, but they do have a rematch at the New Japan's version of SummerSlam Dominion, and there is a spot where they are both out on the apron, and Naito goes to give Ibushi a German suplex. Now, I think what's supposed to happen is that Ibushi is meant to flip over and just land on his front on the mats on the floor. But what happens is that Ibushi doesn't rotate all the way, so he lands headfirst on the apron, his body goes one way, and his neck goes the other. And there is a clip of this on YouTube, as I say, for all you sadistic bastards out there that want to see it. I do not know. I'd literally, after watching this particular match, I remembered the spot and I went and watched it. And I still don't know to this day how Kota Ibushi is still alive. Because it's the most horrendous bump I've ever seen, and yet he's still here to this day.
No, it ain't pretty, and this boy's good, dicing with death here. You know, you tempt fate too many times, you piss fate off, and fate's gonna kick your fucking head in. Yes. And I think, as much as I like Kota Ibushi and think he's absolutely amazing, I've got plaudits coming out of my arse for him.
Yes,
he's got to stop.
He's got to, at the very least, just sort of tone it down.
Because but again, it becomes that PCO thing which we spoke about before, that spot thing, that thing. It's sort of it's like an addiction to them, I believe, to do that to their bodies and not give a shit because it gets that crowd reaction that they want. Yeah. And that's what they want at the end. They want that crowd reaction. They don't care what happens to them. They want the end result.
Yeah.
Unless he finds another way of doing it, he's not going to change soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. So anyway, we should probably talk a little bit about this match. Some of the spots that stood out to me is there was a teased Cesaro-style deadlift German from the outside back into the ring from Ibushi, which Naito have reversed, teasing a tombstone on the apron, and Ibushi countered that. They had a bit of a back and forth on the apron, and then Ibushi literally jumps up and head scissors Naito off the apron to the floor.
I've literally written, Ibushi hits the move of the century as both are running. He hits this Rana from on the apron onto the outside, and it looks so clean, so great. It was again, it's what I expect from these guys. Mm-hmm. It is what I expect. It was really, really good. And I mean it when I say moving the bloody century. I really think it was.
There's a bit of a sort of like do-si-do, sort of like, what would you call it? Sort of like the compactor? It's sort of like the...
Yeah.
So like they roll through, like Ibushi's going for sort of like the compactor. They roll through. Naito looks to be going for it, but he like loses his footing. And like literally, once again, it drives Kota Ibushi right down on the back of his neck. There's a poison Rana from Naito, and he goes straight into a Destino, which was a really great near fall. Kota Ibushi channeling his inner Shinsuke Nakamura with two Bamiers for a near fall. There's a kick out from a sit out last ride powerbomb. And straight into the Kamagore from Ibushi, who pins Naito to win the match and the title in 20 minutes and 53 seconds. It's a really darn good match. It's probably my favourite match of the night.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. There's a bit before that where Naito hits Destino, and for a two count, and it's the sort of bit where the crowd are completely sucked into this is the finish, and it wasn't, and it's that kind of moment in that little moment that little segment that they did where Naito hits Destino, he goes for the pin, crowd are like, this is it, 1, 2, and they all chant 3, and Ibushi kicks out. It's really good what they stuff. Obviously Naito goes for Destino again, and the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah, these two are a class of their own. They're a class of their own.
Really good fucking match. Really, really good. We then have the Ring of Honor main event, a triple threat ladder match for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Champion Jay Lethal defending against the villain Marty-Scurll and main event Matt Taven. Hang on. It doesn't make any main event Matt Taven. It's like the equivalent of main event Hardcore Holly.
Madison Square Taven, I believe some shirts were.
Oh fuck! No,
oh my god!
They do it like they do the introductions for this match, and they literally cut to a guy in the front row who's literally there in his Madison Square Taven shirt,
and he's
holding up the
Kingdom.
fort. Kingdom. It's like, you fucking mark.
but he's just there on his own, stood there, and it's again there. He's just, and everyone else is sat down.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone else is stood up like surrounding him. He's just there, stood up on his own. He's not showing any. He's just doing this real creepy smile. It's a real creepy smile.
Which shows the level of how well this Matt Taven world main event Matt Taven push has gone.
It's so. By the way, Nick Aldis and Camille on commentary.
Oh, like I have in my notes, NWA champion, the national treasure, Nick Aldis is on commentary and is the best thing about this match. He
basically buries the Ring of Honor heavyweight title, by the way. He buries that title so far down by constantly mentioning he's the real world champion and Sweet Charlotte and the £10. He's right. No.
But at the same time as well, throughout this match, he's like, he's tremendous. He does a tremendous job of, even though a ladder match isn't particularly his style, he's just basically, talking about the sort of emotions that someone in this position would go through, strategies and stuff like that. As I say, he was the best thing about this match. And, right, this match went nearly 30 minutes. It went 29 minutes 35. I can tell you this much. This didn't need to go that long.
They spent 9 minutes lying on the ground, waiting for
a
little rest spot.
There was so much dead fucking air. Like, it was. They attempted to do a WWE style ladder match, but no, they tried to do a WWE Money in the Bank ladder match, but then they realised that you only got 3 competitors rather than 7 or 8, so you can't do spots too quickly. Like, case in point, there's a bit where Jay Lethal gets this great big massive ladder, sets it up on the outside, sets Taven up on the table, goes to the top of this ladder, hits a big Macho Man style elbow, because, he used to be Black Machismo, works into his gimmick, hits this elbow on Matt Taven. Not even 2 minutes goes by, and Matt Taven is up, getting his own purple fucking ladder into the ring, and fucking attempts to climb and get the belt.
This wasn't... To put this image in people's heads, this was like your Jeff Hardy at WrestleMania just doing that swanton on like, I think it was like Bubba, or whoever might have been in the TLC or a ladder match with him.
Yeah.
This is Jeff Hardy style ladder spot, shall we say? And Lethal, to his credit, goes right through the elbow drop. Right, that's it, both gone. He makes both walking back into the bloody ring.
Note. Lethal makes somewhat of an attempt to sell it because he's not like trying to climb up the ladder lickety split. He's making somewhat of an effort to sell the fact that he's just delivered a devastating elbow. Matt Taven was so hurt by this that he was able to get up, get this great big massive purple ladder out, set it up, and attempt to fucking climb it.
Like, why? The thing with the purple ladder is, why wouldn't you go and get that first? Go and get it first. It's taller than all the bloody others. Just stand that. Why does he need a purple ladder?
Because he's Matt freaking Taven.
It's the same with the Stardust, Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
When he had the polka dot.
The polka dot ladder. Why?
Yeah. And Big Show had the massive reinforced one where the steps were like 5 feet each.
That was cool though.
Yeah, I can imagine. But
Cool.
it's at least
purple ladder. At least there was a backstory to it because I seem to remember in that match, Big Show attempted to climb a normal ladder, broke the steps, and then was like, oh okay, doesn't matter because I've got my own special ladder under here. At least that fucking played into this.
Not just pull out a random bloody purple.
He just puts it. Yeah, Matt Taven just pulls out a ladder with his own fucking colour scheme.
Not storyline related.
Yeah.
He did have some kind of like with the Big Show thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't that? He just pulled out a random purple. I thought, where the hell did that come from?
And do you know what? This was the point in the night where I got really pissed off with Ian Riccaboni, this Ring of Honor commentator.
Yeah.
Because literally every 5 minutes they cut to sort of like a wide shot of of the arena. He's literally just going, "Oh my God, look at this action in front of 20,000 in Madison Square Garden." Shut the fuck up, Michael Cole.
The worst thing Ring of Honor have done.
Michael Cole.
Worst thing Ring of Honor did in this pay-per-view, and several shows later,
Bar Enzo and Cass.
Bar Enzo and Cass, was what New Japan do well is they let the wrestling tell the story.
Yes.
They don't have to show massive clips or massive shots of crowds getting hyped. They don't have to do that because you are watching the same thing that crowd is, and you're getting sucked into it as they are. You are part of them. You don't need to see or hear anything to get hyped up. And I think Ring of Honor played too much to look what we're doing. Look at the crowd. Look, they're happy for Ring of Honor. Look at them all. They love it. They love Ring of Honor. They love Ring of Honor. You should too. Yeah, that's what it felt. It felt like a sales pitch.
They're the equivalent of like, oh my God, we sold out Madison Square Garden, but your half of the show was shit. Yeah, but we sold out Madison Square Garden. It's like, you don't fucking get them. Jesus Christ. So yeah, like nobody was really over in this match. Like marty-scurll was over to an extent, but the people weren't really that much behind him.
No.
Jay Lethal was sort of there, and Matt Taven. I mean, the last time I saw Matt Taven, he was in said promotion in the northwest of England in a comedy tag team with Mike and Maria Kanellis. So to go from comedy tag team to main eventer is sort of like, it's the equivalent of like when I hadn't been watching TNA at all, and then I find out that Eric Young is their world champion, and I'm like, what? He's a comedy fucking idiot for the majority of his career. What are you on about?
It's a funny one. It's a funny one because it's like one of these things just doesn't belong here.
I was honestly thinking like Matt Taven was getting Baron Corbin levels of heat. When he was coming out, he had a King Corbin crown on. I was like, dude, if you're trying to make me take you seriously as a main eventer, wearing a fucking crown isn't going to do it.
Yeah, but they have tried this Ring of Honor. They have tried this, and now Mike Bennett has been released, and Maria she's been released as well, I believe. They're obviously going to reform that Comedy Kingdom and whatever. But
I ain't fucking watching.
I struggle because guess who won this match, everybody? I understand they want to experiment and try something new, and
the thing
hopefully
is,
go
though,
on from there. But
the thing is, though, you've got marty-scurll in the match. Like, I'm not saying that because marty-scurll at that point in time was he was signed with Ring of Honor, but he was only signed for like a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't have him win your world title on the biggest stage that you're possibly ever going to be in, and then not have him drop the belt to whoever you want it to be down the line. And do you know what? I've neglected to say this, that there was an added thing of Nick Aldis being on commentary, because obviously in the next couple of weeks after this particular event was going to be the Crockett Cup. And Nick Aldis was defending the NWA title against marty-scurll. And one of the storylines that they had in this match was that if Marty were to win the belt, then they would do title for title, like winner take all, like the same that has been going on for a lot of the Ring of Honor and New Japan matches, which will feed into the next review that we do. But yeah, as I say, it was a nice touch, but it was just sort of like said. They never really followed on with it.
No, yeah, I know completely what you mean. The match itself, the ladder, it was a good ladder match. We're not poo-pooing it. But the spots were so obviously set up in a way you knew. I think that they thought it's like setting up how can I explain this? Like setting up a classroom for a lesson.
Yes.
You set it up. The kids sit down and they look. They see, right, that's going to happen. It's like with this. They led all the things out. Tables. That I think Lethal led out a ladder on 2 chairs, sort of halfway between the ramp and the ring.
Yes.
And you sort of knew again, and Taven sort of does like a running powerbomb on Lethal on this ladder, but you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And there's no big sort of payoff pop spot, if you know what I mean, that you normally would get in I mean, even towards the end when they were getting thrown off, it was sort of like they were just drooping off the ladder. There wasn't a big like punch I think didn't Taven hit? Who does he hit with the title? Was it Lethal? He hits
it was
with the
Lethal.
Yeah, he hits. Even that spot itself should have been, especially for him, sort of like a massive boo of that. Oh no, what's going to happen? But it wasn't. It was sort of like yeah. It's very. That's where it's describe. It wasn't.
Yeah. So Matt Taven won this match. Main eventer Matt Taven won their world title.
MATTAVEN. We're not lying, people. It's on the internet. It's true.
Yeah. And fucking this is when I immediately lost it with Ian Riccoboni. He has the tumultuous cheek to call Matt Taven the real world champion. Nick Aldis is sat fucking right next to him. If I were Nick Aldis, I'd have turned around and gone, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I'd have popped him right in his face.
It's like, who is the real world champion? The guy who has the title that belongs to the National Wrestling Alliance, or that goofy fucking belt that looks like a buffet fucking dinner platter?
If anything, it buries the Ring of Honor title more.
Oh yeah.
Because this what happened over the course of this match, people, was that Ring of Honor title went up in that air as quite a decent heavyweight title holder, and it got taken down, and it was like, he's got that. All right, okay.
And do you know how long main event? And do you know when main event level Matt Taven drops the world title?
I know he dropped, but when did he drop it?
September.
Oh.
He has a 177-day reign with it.
I know he held it for a while, but come on, come on, Ring of Honor, come on.
So that is the Ring of Honor portion of the pay-per-view over and done with. Luckily though, New Japan is main eventing this pay-per-view, so at least we have that to go with. So it is the main event for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Switchblade Jay White defending the belt against the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. Now, this is coming off a lot has happened since the end of Okada's historic 720-day reign. He's parted with Gedo. It was an amicable split, and then Hiroshi Tanahashi won that year's G1 tournament. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Just basically defended his main event opportunity at Wrestle Kingdom against Okada in a match, tightly contested. Tanahashi retained his briefcase, and then Switchblade Jay White attacked both Okada and Tanahashi. Looked as if Gedo was coming in to make the save for the babyfaces, but he attacked Okada, sided with Jay White, and that just basically brings the 6-year managerial stint of Gedo being in Okada's corner to an end. So that just basically led up to Wrestle Kingdom 13, where Jay White got the win over Okada. Hiroshi Tanahashi won the IWGP title in the main event against Kenny Omega. And at the next show, New Beginning in Osaka on February the 11th, Jay White beat Tanahashi to capture his first IWGP championship, and he became the youngest non-Japanese champion at the age of 26. And then the last thing, how Okada got into this spot, he won the New Japan Cup, defeating Michael Elgin, Mikey Nichols, Will Ospreay, Tomohiro Ishii, and then Sanada in the finals of the tournament to set up this match. This was the one match that I didn't make any notes on at all because I just wanted to sit back. It was a lengthy match, so I didn't really want to bog myself down too much. Thoughts on... I'm interested to get your thoughts on Jay White, because he's... At this point in his career, in his New Japan career, he's just over a year in, and as I say, early days, but there are elements that really sort of set him out from any other heel that is currently in wrestling at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's like at the start of this match, he's sliding out the ring, he's biding his time, that typical heel stuff. I liked it. I like that. I like that old school sort of, it's sort of a Ric Flair-esque heel sort of thing that oozes from him. That I really like. That cocky sort of. He's got a cocky look on his face. He looks like a cocky twat, so he's going to act like a cocky twat.
And it's an easy way to get heat as well.
Yeah.
And there's a bit later on in the match as well, which I love. I haven't seen anybody. Well, no other heel that comes to mind does what Jay White sort of does with opponents that are about to hit their finishing move. So like there's basically, so the Rainmaker, there's like the setup. So, you know, they'll have the arm twisted, they'll spin out, and then obviously pull them in for the Rainmaker clothesline. When Okada pushes him out to pull him back in, Jay White just like purposefully flops down to the floor, just like dead weights. And he's just sort of like got the cocky, smarmy.
Yeah, that look. He's got a real good cocky look on his face. I like it. Yeah, and he plays that character so well.
It's very effective for sort of like the heel that he's portraying. Unfortunately, like I don't doubt Jay White. Like he's a great heel character. He's a really good fucking wrestler. But what always brings it down for me is the constant interference, distraction spots with Gedo.
Yeah.
Like I noted every single one down in this match, and there's 5 in total.
Jeez. Like, I have written them down, but I didn't think there was that many. It sort of takes the sting out of it all. It takes the sting out of him as a character, because I don't think he needs someone there to help him do the things that he does.
No, because
the
thing is, like Zack Sabre Jr., he had Taka Michinoku in his corner, but not once did Taka interfere in the match, because he's literally just there as a coach. He's coaching things, like telling him stuff on the fly. It's just basically, he does the same thing that like Paul Heyman does with Brock Lesnar in WWE. He doesn't need the interference. He's literally just there as a coach. But, you know, the interference spots in New Japan are frustrating, because there's a reason why I watch New Japan, is because these kind of interference spots happen way too often in your sort of wrestling that you see in the US.
Yeah,
and it's a real bugbearer for me, because it's like, I watch Japanese wrestling to get away from this horseshit. I don't need it like being interfered with, because like ultimately it just spoils Jay White's matches for me, because like the amount of times that I come out of a Jay White match just going, God, that match was really good, but like the interference just sort of like soured it a little bit for me.
Yeah, he doesn't need it. He really doesn't need it.
No. I fucking love Kazuchika Okada.
The man's perfect. He's perfect. As a wrestler, he's perfect.
He's not flash. He's not like overly flashy. It's just he is the quintessential wrestler. He makes all the little things look so crisp and so perfect. It's scary. I mean, like I went back and watched like back end of last year. I made an effort to go back and watch all the major matches in the historic 720-day reign of Okada, and he is so adaptable. It's scary. Like he had like matches with Tanahashi, Naito, Omega, Shibata, Suzuki. There was even one with Bad Luck Fale, and every single one of them was different, because he has this amazing ability to just adapt himself that I've not seen from a lot of. I can't think of many other wrestlers that are.
It's a man that knows what. It's a man that knows what he's doing. He if there was a man ever born to be a professional wrestler. He is so natural in everything that he does.
Yeah.
Like you say, he could have a match with Will Ospreay and next night have a match with Zack Sabre Jr. and do both styles equally perfectly and match them both on a level that is unprecedented. The man gets it. The man gets it. He gets wrestling. He understands what is needed of him. He works hard, and the results are for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Everybody to see.
Yeah, definitely. I will say about this match is that it goes 32 minutes 33, which is quite a long while. And I must say that, like, going back over this match, because I've seen it a couple of times, and I remember it being really, really good. But sort of like, I got like 15 minutes in, and I was just sort of like, it's fine. It's not as good as I thought it would. Not as good as I thought it was. But, it's a perfectly competent main event. But then it literally gets into sort of like the last 10 minutes or so, and they click up into a higher gear. They really do click up into a higher gear. I mean, sort of like the finishing stretch where they're literally reversing each other's finishing moves, like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, was outstanding. It really, really was. Yeah.
Both the this is as main event quality as main event is ever going to be. Mm-hmm. This was, sometimes you can look at matches and think, oh, did that really need to be the main event? That that should have been the main event. There was no argument here that this was rightly the main event, and it is what everyone came to see. They came to see Okada win, which thankfully happened, but would it have taken the sting out of it if White won? Possibly, but that's what good booking gets you.
Yep.
That's what good booking gets you. You pick the right person to win at the right time in the right place. Yep. You get the payoff. And again, New Japan did this absolutely fantastically. They know what they're doing. They know how to work their audience. It sounds a bit wrong when you say work the audience, but they know
they know how to cater to their fan base.
Yeah, and they knew what people wanted that night was to see Jay White get beat.
Yeah.
And a standing tall. That's what they wanted to see. And they gave him it, but they didn't give him it in a obvious way.
It was done in a fighting way. Like, it's interesting you were talking in the Intercontinental title match, the near fall after the Destino from Naito. There's a similar one where after multiple times of attempting, Okada hits the Rainmaker, goes for the pin, gets a near 2 count, and like literally the entire audience just gasps. Okada's facial of just sort of like Jay White kicking out of the Rainmaker was fantastic. And then like literally the trading moves back and forth. Like Jay White is able to hit the Sling Blade. Yeah. No, not the Sling Blade. Oh, what's the name of his freaking finisher? I've forgotten it. Oh,
is it Blade Runner?
Blade Runner, that's it. Yeah. So Jay White hits the Blade Runner, but Jay White can't get the pin straight away, which is a good way of sort of like putting on Okada because he survived the Blade Runner, which has literally put down pretty much everybody that's been hit with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it saves face for Jay White because he didn't go for the cover and like Okada didn't kick out of it, so that's another element. You're protecting both people and you're protecting a finishing move that, you can always go back to. You can always build up to if you ever want someone to kick out of. Yeah. And then, as I say, like the finishing stretch, the constant reversing of both men trying to hit each other's finisher again results in a drop kick, a spinning tombstone from Okada, and he eventually hits the Rainmaker and gets the win.
Yeah, I mean...
Damn good main event.
The end of this match was so quick. It was like bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
But it again, done so well. So well. Thoroughly entertaining from start to finish.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably one of the best matches I've seen in a long, long time. Done rightly, booked properly. Mm-hmm. Both men in well, Jay White's only 26.
Yep.
That boy's got another 15, 20 years to go.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And geez, we've got lots to see from him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's doing this stuff at 26 now,
well, yeah, I mean it's scary, sort of like the parallels of Jay White this early in his career and Okada, sort of like around about the same the same age. They're sort of like on. There's definitely talent there, and you could see Jay White breaking out in the next 5 years or whatsoever, being really talked about as being one of the best wrestlers in the world. And yeah, that was pretty much the end of the pay-per-view. And obviously, with it being a Ring of Honor broadcast, after just over 90 seconds after Okada wins, they quickly sign off and the pay-per-view ends, which was annoying because I'm used to sort of like the end of New Japan shows where you get the long celebration and, the victor of the main event will take the microphone and do like a big speech for the crowd and then they'll sign off. But, not with Ring of Honor, but hey-ho. So yeah, that was the G1 Supercard. A very mixed bag depending on which company you're reviewing. Anthony, what do you think of the show overall, mate?
Amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a 5 hours, 17 minutes, something like that in total.
Something like that, yeah. If you cut out the Honor Rumble, I'd say it's just a little bit over 4 hours.
Yeah. Again, I think it was just fantastic. I personally sometimes find it hard to sit through a very, very, very long pay-per-view. Find it hard to sit through wrestling. I didn't once struggle to stay in the room while this was on. This kept me focused. This kept me watching it. It kept me interested. Even the bits where Ring of Honor decided they were going to be a bit... even them bits they were still gripping me and holding me onto that pay-per-view possibly because I knew what was coming, i.e. Ibushi and Naito and Okada and White. But at the end of the day, I think it was. I honestly, everyone go out and watch this before you have to pay for it again. But even then, pay for it. Throw money at it. Throw money at New Japan, not at Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Throw money at New Japan.
I was about to say.
I think Ring of Honor will be throwing money at you at this rate, but throw money at New Japan Wrestling. Is it New Japan World?
New Japan World.
The thing. Throw money at it because you are going to get your value. You're going to get value for money here.
It works out at like £7. Well, if you're over in the UK, it works out about £7. It's like if you're over in America, it's the equivalent of what you would pay for the WWE Network, and you get a vast, like, extensive library. So yeah, for me, it was a tale of two companies, really. Everything that Ring of Honor did was cringeworthingly bad, i.e. the Enzo and Cass running, the women's match. And what was the other thing that was quite cringeworthy? Oh, and the street fight, and it ranged to forgettable, i.e. the tag team match, the tag title match, and the ladder match, and everything that New Japan did ranged from good to really darn great.
Yeah, there wasn't a disappointment on New Japan side.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't at all. And yeah, it's just a little thing on where these two companies have gone since then. Ring of Honor, well, I mean, after the mega show, after the G1 card, they saw their live attendance and their pay-per-view numbers drop dramatically. The live attendance has dropped by 31%. That's nothing. That's nothing. The pay-per-view numbers from June to September dropped a shocking 77%. So their best in the world pay-per-view, which took place in June, the end of June, did an estimated 3,500 buys, and then their pay-per-view The Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, which was in September, is estimated to have done just under 800. So there was there just seems to be like a WCW levels worth mass exodus of fans just immediately turning off.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I knew it was bad. Didn't know it was that bad.
Oh, yeah.
Marty-Scurll, I mean, are you going down with the ship here, pal?
Well, no, because he's still got the thing in the NWA. He'll be fine. He'll be absolutely fine.
I hope so, for his sake.
Whereas New Japan seem to have gone from sort of like, strength to strength. They still put on quality throughout the year, which we'll hopefully see in some future episodes. Culminating in a strategy for Wrestle Kingdom 14, which even WWE themselves seem to follow suit with, of splitting the big major show over 2 separate days. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. That is the end of our G1 Supercard review. I'm thinking next on the plate, because with the lads from RAD and the Lost Art of Wrestling, and they have their own specific wrestling interests, we're going to be having a look at a event which happened a couple of weeks after this show that we've just talked about. We're going to be having a look at the Crockett Cup, because we do have some NWA fans in our little social group, and I thought it would be nice to check out a show that I haven't seen before, but I am aware that it has a main event of Nick Aldis versus Marty-Scurll for the NWA title, so that'll be very interesting to watch.
Absolutely. By the way, you made us sound so lonely when you said our little circle of friends. Like we all gather online. It's like these secret meetings, just us. Like, yes, we don't like everybody else out there.
Everyone has their secret circle of friends. It's
you can only hear us while listening to this podcast. We wouldn't talk to any of you if we saw you out on the street. No, I'm joking. We would. I might not, but everyone else would.
So that'll be next time on the Lost Art of Wrestling and Wrestlebox crossover. Anthony, I just want to say thank you very much for being with me and just going through the show. Otherwise, it would probably have just been me on my own talking to the lonesome.
It's been an honour and an absolute pleasure, my friend.
Oh, thank you very much. Will we see you for the Crockett Cup, do you reckon?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic.
It's not like I'm doing anything soon, is it?
Very true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not very good at plugs, so, knowing who is doing the editing for this, they will probably do all the necessary plugs for all the podcasts that we are featured on, that we are available on in the links down in the description of where this episode is posted. Until next time, I've been Mr. Lewis Ogden.
And I've been the real Not Daz Anthony Dark.
And we'll see you next time for the Crockett Cup.